Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Wednesday night. Tonight, we give you coverage of the WSSR Cup Series Season 10, race number 12, which means it's time for the end of the regular season to figure out the 16 drivers that we're racing in the playoffs starting next week. And we finish off the regular season at the 2008 configuration of Daytona, a track that's bumpy. It's got some characteristics as well that are going to be tough for these drivers to handle. And based off of what we've seen from practice so far, these drivers are willing to risk it all here on a track that everyone has a chance on. We are excited to give you all the coverage again here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me up in the booth is going to be Richard Wolsifer. And Richard, a whole entire season has amounted to this. Daytona, the last race of the regular season. Everyone's built up to this moment. Now it's time to see who's making the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a very interesting race that we're going to be having because, like you said, it is the 08 configuration of Daytona. Very old service, very bumpy on a car that's very stiff. These cars do not like to bounce very well, so a lot of these cars will bounce ground out basically and lose a lot of their traction and control. So it's going to be interesting to see what these drivers can do, especially in these three wide situations that we will more than likely see throughout the entire race.
And 16 drivers at the end of this race, we will know, are racing for the Season 10 championship, but racing tonight, one of those potential 16 drivers not going to be eligible to race this evening. A lot of penalties were given out last week after the Milwaukee Mile race, and the biggest one of all, Cody Reed. We've been documenting the fact that the 25 won the Atlanta race at the start of the season. He has had a rough season overall, trying to fight for his life to stay inside of the top 25 in points, so that win, it makes him eligible to make the playoffs. So we automatically put him in, but with him being suspended for today's race, all hands are looking at Samuel Garcia. If Samuel Garcia can finish inside of the top 8, that 50 machine could be knocking out Cody Reed from racing for the playoffs, and it can open it up to a lot of other drivers for a chance to have a hope to race for the Season 10 championship. There's a lot of other scenarios we'll go deeper in at our warm-up station. But Richard, due to that one driver being suspended, it's really opened the door for a lot of other drivers to make the playoffs.
Oh, it definitely has, and that's definitely a heartbreak for Cody Reed. I mean, he got that opening season win, and he has been fighting real hard to get up into that top 25, and he finally makes it in and just had a very, very rough race last week that would park him for this week. So he's basically going to be sitting here chewing his nails, hoping that that doesn't happen. But this definitely, like you said, opens the door for a lot of drivers. And again, that can easily potentially drop him out of the top 25, which will then give us the top 15 in points for the people moving on to the top 16. So hopefully we'll see what Samuel Garcia can do tonight and see if he can get into that top 8 that he has got to aim for to knock out Cody Reed.
There's a lot of other scenarios as well. You've got Chris Stitz, Jared Talmadge, both tied entering tonight, and they're got that cutoff line if Cody Reed's win pushes him to the next round. So we will see how that lines up here tonight. But first, let's see where drivers will start off, and this is one of the few bonus points that you can grab. Pole time. It's gonna matter. If you grab the pole, you get 1 bonus point for yourself. So some of these drivers that are racing for a chance for those playoffs, they've got to have a good run here to this evening, as seeing one of the drivers that's hoping for a reset race potentially, as we've got Jared Hughes going to be hitting the track as the 68 machine, having a little bit of issues, it looks like, with the spec maps for himself, but he's taking it slow here as he's starting to ramp it up on speed.
Yeah, he's got to ramp up the speed, and I think this is going to be a second lap, fast lap for all these drivers. They're going to have to navigate those bumps on the inside of those turns, because that is going to scruff off a ton of speed for these drivers, because it's going to bounce that car around. They're going to be moving those steering wheels around, trying to keep that car under control. So whatever driver can do that the best and keep that car as straight as possible and not have to, turn that steering wheel as much is going to be the guy you see start front row inside tonight.
Zach Hall taking it slow on the apron. And I'm also curious if we can bring up the weather, because this was something that Richard and I, both you and I, kind of looked at. We were kind of shocked by The track temperature, it is extremely warm for these drivers. Air temperature at 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but it is baking down on this track. And during practice, we were shocked when it was at 121 degrees. Richard, it's up to 126 degrees just for qualifying. These drivers have to be pristine when they're hitting this course.
Yeah, that is a toasty track for sure. We were talking about it earlier at 120 degrees, and now for that temperature to rise even this high, I mean, these tires are not going to be happy tires when these drivers are finally racing around at top speed. But they're going to have to manage tire wear, I do believe, here at this surface, because I think tire wear is really going to matter when the racing starts. But right around with Gavin Rogers, and right now Ben Keeney's sitting at the top of the board with a 50.4. So great lap by him, but let's see if Gavin Rogers can navigate the inside here at Daytona and try to land that 75 beautiful Bobby Allison, that throwback Sundance Pizza Ford Mustang on the top in the front row.
And that's what you're going to see a lot here tonight. It's officially throwback night for the WSSR Cup Series. Usually we see throwback nights. Sometimes it's at Bristol, sometimes it's at Darlington. But we're changing it up here and being at Daytona as Ben Keeney cranking up the speed again. It's a 50.387. And after coming back last week in the Milwaukee Mile, disappointingly got knocked out of the race early. He'll now drop to third because it's Ryan Ferraro in the 10 taking the top spot. Moving down, it's now Vincent Sora. And now we're starting to see the speed ramp up, but it's all within 0.05 of a second. Take it away, it's Gavin Rogers now top of the board as he slides through the grass with a fast time. Ken Campbell takes that time right on back, and this top of the board, Richard, it is just moving quickly. Each lap, everyone is swapping hands.
Yeah, Larry Yingling now at the top of the board. You got James Scioli up there taking the second place position as well. These drivers finally came in with the speed, and it was just knockout after knockout as these drivers were laying down the fastest laps they possibly can. But Larry Yingling currently at the top of the board with a beautiful 50.294, the only driver in the 50.2 era right now. But doing a fantastic job right now, riding along with Zachary Hall, who's about to put down his lap for qualifying down into the tri-oval on the front stretch here, that number one Baby Ruth machine, it looks like. So here he goes, crossing the start-finish line, and that will be enough for, I didn't even see him in the top 10 there. There he is in third place. Great run by Zachary Hall.
And what's crazy to see, our top 25 drivers, now we're not done with qualifying just yet, but the top 25 currently are all within one tenth of one another in time. They are so close. Minimal mistakes are hurting you badly on track. Yingling still top of the board as Dallas Newbigging only able to move up to 19th on the board for himself, and that will make now 26 drivers within a tenth of a second over one another.
Yeah, it is a very, very tight field in speed, but these are just the speed of a single car on track. That will not be the same when these drivers get out on track for the race, because it'll be like typical Daytona and super speedway racing. They'll be in a pack all together. So we'll see what they could do, and that will end qualifying as we get ready for the warm-up of these drivers.
Warm-up's about to be starting. We saw crossing the line, Brian Noel missing out by just a mere 20 feet from the line, and his time will not count. The 00 starting at the end of the line. Unfortunate for himself, but for us, we're into the warm-up. This is what I said. We're going to take a look at a deeper look into the point standings. How is tonight shaping up? Because it is going to be a very important evening on who's in, who's out, and it's going to be close on who's going to find that true pace and speed for themselves. Here's some of the drivers of note, though. Top of the board, it's been Gavin Rogers. He's fighting for that regular season's championship. He's got an 18-point advantage over John Forbes entering tonight, but other drivers have gotten wins and are good with their wins and track position and points. We got James Scioli with 2 wins, John Forbes, Larry Yingling, Vincent Sora, and Drew Jua with their win. They're automatically into the playoffs with how well they're running and starting tonight's race. They are good on points and locked to run for the playoffs. Cody Reed, though, he's got a win, but he's not officially locked into the points. But if he somehow does make it in and Samuel Garcia does not find enough points to bump out that 25 machine, here's where the points would line up. Ryan Kelly, he looks pretty good on points. Same for Ken Campbell, Nick Crawford, Zach Hall. Those three drivers, I mean, four drivers are pretty set on points because they're over 60 points. Danny Cochran, Cedric Hunter, they're in a good, you just need to run well inside the top 20 and you're basically into the next running for a championship. But if you drop down to Brian McCann, Shane Tarian, those two drivers, top 15, you're pretty set on racing for a championship. Then it gets a lot more interesting. Chris Stitz, Jared Talmadge, they are tied at the cut line. Again, these are points based on if Cody Reed's win does advance him into the playoffs. You also right behind him have Tom Sinchek, just 5 points out. Ryan Noel, 9 points out for that cut line. Christopher Morris, 12 points. Joshua Kanata, 15 points. And Ali Fonseca, he's got a long road for himself here tonight. He's also got a penalty. He's got to serve 21 points out from making it to the cut line based off a point. Now we shift over to where we have on the right side. You got Cody Reed, 22nd in points. He needs to be inside of the top 25 for his win to count to put him into the playoffs. You got Chad Wilkes, who's trying to have a chance. If he wins, he will be racing for a chance for the championship. Douglas Newbigging also in a good position. Justin Malarkey in a spot where he needs a decent day to stay ahead of Garcia and Knoll, as well as Ryan Ferraro and Ross Tatum. And as long as he does and has a win, he would be stealing a spot in the playoffs. And I mean, it's fun seeing both scenarios right now, Richard, but it is a lot of math that we're going to try our best to keep up with.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of math all night, keeping a track of that 16th or even 15th and final position for the cutoff line. But even watching Sam Garcia to see if he can fall up as well and get above that 25 mark to knock Cody Reed out of it. But you get a lot of drivers also in that top 25 searching for that win. Like you were talking about Chad Wilkes and Doug Newbigging, they are looking for that win to get into that top 16. So there's going to be a lot of drivers that are going to be heated and ready to get to the front and stay there as much as they possibly can up into that final lap of this race.
I mean, it's simple, it's easy. We usually would look at our schedule. I think we're going to skip that and go straight to taking a look at our pick'ems for this evening, because we have some drivers of note to watch out for. Again, drivers that are inside the top 25, if they get a win, they're in. And that's one of the drivers I'm picking for to watch out here for tonight. I'm thinking about Brian Noel, 00 machine. I got a feeling he's got a chance to really shock the field. He's been showing some good pace, willing to make some risky moves, and it might be a little bit of luck. And that's why I'm picking a Lucky Ducks driver to win here tonight.
You know, I'm going to go along with you on that one and pick another Lucky Ducks driver and go with Douglas Newbigging. He has had a lot of speed all season, just always getting caught up in the wrong situations at the wrong times. So I think he's wanting to get up there, get that win, because he needs it to get into that top 16 and join his teammates of James Scioli and Drew Jua to help them in their playoff chance as well.
And our third member of our crew here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, our producer, Robert Moyer Jr., going to go with Jared Talmadge, a driver who's on the cut line. The pressure of points, the pressure to get a win. Hey, why not add both of them in the 27, hoping for a good day to be up front. And honestly, we could have picked anyone. Everyone's got a chance. Richard, it is super speedway racing. It's helpful to have a team. It's helpful to know to have the skill set to place yourself up front. But legitimately, everyone has a chance here tonight.
Logistically, everybody does have a chance here, and anything can happen. It is Daytona. It is the world center of racing, and anything can happen. The big one can strike, and you can either come out a hero or end up a zero in being involved and not being able to get that car repaired and back out on track to save your points day.
I want to say thank you to the sponsors that have helped us all throughout the regular season and entering into the playoffs. That's GTR Simulators and Trophy Smack. We'll touch on them more later on in the broadcast, because right now it's time to grid up and get ready for 100 laps at the 08 configuration of Daytona. And taking the pole in the top spot here tonight, it's Larry Yingling in the 67 machine. To his outside, we find James Scioli in the 77, last season's champion, and trying to find momentum into the playoffs. We find the one machine of Zach Hull in third. Fourth, a well-renowned super speedway driver, and if he can find the right friends around him, watch out for the 15 of Ken Campbell, fast driver, most wins this season. We find Gavin Rogers going to be down in 5th place with Joshua Kanata, who's looking for a good points day, but a win would be even more special, starting in 6th. for the 16. A driver that's won the most here at Daytona. If you think of this track, you think of WSSR. Brian Johnson knows how to get to victory lane. He's hoping to do so once again. Fall down to 8th, where we find Jared Hughes with a fantastic qualifying run. Vincent Sora 9th, and finishing out our top 10, the driver that's tied at the cutoff line, it's Chris Ditz in the 17.
Starting out P11 will be Justin Malarkey, starting really high. We don't normally see him, so great run by him. And GT Irizarry and 12th on the outside in the number 14. Jarrett Talmadge, our pick from Robert, will be starting 13th, and Christopher Norris, who's still trying to get into that top 16 in points, starting 14th. Danny Cochran in the number 2, starting 15th. Into the outside, Andrew Medlin. Nicholas Renner in the number 94, starting in 17th. And John Forbes outside of him, starting in 18th. And to round out our top 20 and 19th is Douglas Newbigging and Cedric Hunter, the number 13 Hello Kitty machine on the outside.
In 21st, we find the 10 of Ryan Ferraro, as well as we find to his outside in the 22nd position, the 88 of Drew Jua. Then behind them, we'll find Nick Crawford and Christopher Wade in the 53 machine. If Christopher Wade, Ken Campbell get close, that's a dynamic duo. They are very good at working with one another at super speedway races. Storm Motorsports could be the underdog team to watch out for. Fall down to 25th, the man of the hour. He could bounce out Cody Reed from the playoffs if he finishes inside of the top 8, or if he gets stage points, that also can assist him on even needing not as great of a finish. We'll be starting in 25th. Brian McCann starts 26th. Ben Heaney going to be starting all the way down in 27th. Tom Sinchek 28th. Brian Noel, my pick, going to be all the way down in 29th. And the last 2 drivers on the board of 31, it's Shane Terring in the 9 and Ryan Kelly in the 3 machine. 31 drivers going to take the green here this evening at the 08 configuration of Daytona for 100 laps here tonight. We will have a stage break at the end of lap 20 with no fast repair for Trisset's tires in pit road. Fuel window we're given was around 40 to 42 laps on fuel, so expecting a 1 stop after the stage is over. But Richard, the big thing to note, it's this track, the configuration, the 08. This track is so dynamic compared to the current one that we race on normally on iRacing.
Yeah, very dynamic. Again, a lot of bumps are on this course, and a lot of these drivers, you normally see a lot of pushing into turns between those drivers that are usually up front. You're probably going to see a lot less of that because one bad bump and on a one bad bounce could send anybody around. So it's going to be exciting to see how these cars react, especially in a pack now, and who's going to be the daring individual to try and take these cars 3 wide on this surface.
You're going to hear a lot of different phrases here tonight. Side drafting, side force. You're going to be also hearing about drafting, having enough numbers in line with you. We're going to be saying a lot of those terms. We'll explain them as we go on throughout this evening. We want to say thank you for joining with us on your Wednesday night as you're watching the WSSR Cup Series Season 10, Race 12, the end of a regular season and preparing for the playoffs as we are green. Dingling, Scioli take us as we roar down the front stretch and head down into turn number 1. Already drivers further on back slipping and sliding into holes so they can get into, but up front, it's the 77 and the 67 side by side into turn 1.
Turn 1, this is going to be the test in the pack. Cars bouncing and moving all over the place on this old surface like we've been talking about, but they make it through 1 and 2 nice and clean, and cars are still shuffling around as we're going down the Daytona's super stretch, and they are still moving around in the back there, but so far so good. They are staying clean. Ken Campbell taking a dive to the inside to try to make a move to the lead, and he'll make it to the lead right there on the start there of 3, but it's come out of 4. Let's see who will lead the first lap here at Daytona.
Ken Campbell, he is willing to make the big moves when it matters the most, to be up front, be the lead driver, but lap 1, give it to James Scioli in the 77. Started second, he'll lead that lap. Our pole sitter of Larry Yingling now going to be pushing the 15. And now it's going to be a pick and choose. Which lane will have the better momentum and speed? I mean, looking at the current configuration, much smoother track at Daytona, you would say the outside most heavily is outweighing most of the inside momentum just because of how quick you can carry the speed. But with the bumps, Richard, it really does kind of be the equalizer to allow both lanes to have a chance to fight side by side.
It definitely does. I mean, the bumps are more prominent on the inside lane, which is a little shocking that that lane is starting to power through but it is the shortest way around the track still. But that outside line usually has the momentum coming out of the turns, but they've got to get hooked up and locked in order to get that momentum built. But this inside line starting to surge forward, it seems, and Scioli still trying to challenge that outside line to try to get that line moving and try to put a lead in the front.
Already starting to see some drivers willing to bump draft. That's when the driver's front bumper hits the rear bumper of the driver ahead of them, and you're trying to woo them forward, pushing them along as we're seeing the drafting in action as Yingling trying to get the 15, just a nose ahead of the 77. Further on back, though, in the middle of the field, around 14, 15 position, drivers are dealing with actually back in 20th. Drivers are going 3 wide for a quick moment. There's Drew Jua, who was stuck on the outer groove, lost a lot of time, but it looks like some drivers trying to cycle to the back to find some allies and friends and maybe make the march forward together, as seeing a couple of lucky duck drivers cycling to the back. That's Drew Jua, that's Brian Noel, as well as Douglas Newbigin, all trying to get together. Their one driver they're missing is Scioli, which makes sense. He'll stay up front if he can.
Yeah, staying up front is definitely the place you want to be. That's going to keep you basically the safest as they're starting to get 3 wide there. Danny Cochran into the sucker hole is getting shuffled all the way to the back there. Like I was saying, being in the front, it's probably one of the safest places to be without being way in the back. So it keeps you out of trouble as long as nobody up there kind of spins you out. Usually the trouble tends to happen around the 3 wide situations like this. Nicholas Renner there stuck in the sucker hole now. But well, these guys are doing a fantastic job. A lot smoother racing than I was expecting to see here. These guys are keeping these cars under control, straight and in line.
You have to be careful if you are 3 wide like they are back in 20th position with drivers being 3 wide, and they're going to be 3 wide, 3 rows deep back in 22nd, back to 29th position. And it's Nicholas Renner, Christopher Wade, and Danny Cochran that were trying to make the middle groove work, but they were side by side for so long, it actually hurt their momentum and was causing about 9 drivers to start to lose the draft. Luckily, they got in line quickly, but side drafting, Richard, already drivers are dealing with the effect that iRacing made a major update to that's really going to affect tonight's race.
And, you know, it really was a huge update to the aero in these cars. Side drafting is extremely strong now. It's where, you know, you take your car, put that nose up to the quarter panel of your opponent you're trying to pass, and what it'll do is it'll push air onto that rear spoiler, that little fan of metal you see on the back of the car. And it'll help draw that car backward and help them lose speed and basically shoot you in front of them a little bit better. But another thing that also changed, they increased the side draft strength, but I feel like the drafting part, just sitting behind another car, was reduced because, you know, we were experiencing it last night in a race where it was hard to get back up into the draft and catch back up the car in front of you after you were side drafted for a little bit.
Yeah, the way that the old model would work with drafting in line with someone, it felt like if you were within a second, you still would get a pretty good surge that would drag you back to that driver in front of you. You have to be within a half a second or more, half a second or closer. Otherwise, you are getting back to that driver without a little bit of help of maybe someone behind you. And we're starting to see side drafting hurting drivers further on back as 2 drivers have officially lost the lead pack. That being Shane Terrian and Ryan Kelly. They currently are those 2 drivers about 6 seconds off the leaders. Then we're starting to see the second pack being built out and created that are stuck back around that 24th position, where we find Ben Keeney and a few others that are trying to stay attached to the lead pack, but struggling to keep up with pace is currently the 98 and the 8 machine, as well as the 10. They're just lingering here. Not the worst place to be. Again, we are almost halfway through stage 1. Stage 1 will complete at the end of lap 20, which, with some of the drivers' mentalities of they need big points to try to make that surge for the playoff push, it might cause some calamity here coming up to the end of the stage.
Yeah, it'll definitely cause, you know, some issues. A lot of these drivers trying to surge forward to get those stage points. There's going to be a few drivers that don't really care about their stage points, but we've got the inside line here in the back that is trying to surge forward. There's a lot of bumping and banging going on. They are close to each other. It looked like Christopher Norris almost got to the rear quarter panel of Justin Malarkey.
Christopher Norris, one of those drivers that needs big points. He was 12 points out from the cut line, and he needs to get up front and challenge to be inside of the top 10, and he's going to be the lead driver in the middle, just forcing his way forward. He's also got the help of Drew Jua, John Force, Ryan Noel, some of those Lucky Duck drivers that were further on back. Now some of your biggest movers. Let's make it 3 wide up inside of our top 10 now, and it's those drivers that need big points. They're all in the mixture here. And Richard, this is a sight you really don't want to see. It's only just 9 laps in this race, but it's coming up to halfway through the stage. You need to make big moves. Otherwise, you might not have a chance to make these passes later. And Norris is just poking the nose and saying, drivers got to get out of my way because I'm going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take chances like this if you want points, because it might be 20 laps, but those 20 laps will tick by quick.
They're 4 wide.
Like I said, they are 4 wide going through the trial right now. Malarkey up top, they're spinning on the front stretch.
Oh no, and it's gonna be seeing the 12 spun around. Andrew Medlin going for a ride, and somehow the rest of the field wasn't involved in that.
That was impressive work by everybody. It was one car that spun and nobody else really involved. There might be some damage from the checkup from Malarkey getting into the wall, but overall, great work by the rest of the field, as only one car was the victim of this situation, and it was Justin Medlin who just got spun sideways and through the field, and not a single other car involved.
There's the 4 wide of Malarkey with Norris, Stitz, as well as others, and just a checkup reaction, getting tapped. The lead by that was the 00 Brian Noel into Andrew Medlin. A couple of other drivers also scooting around. But the big thing here was the fact of Stitz. He kind of bobbled, reacting on how to stop Norris, and Malarkey saw a chance to go to the outside. There's the tap, the spin, and go around. Those drivers, the way they were reacting initially, they didn't want to go 4 wide. They were kind of forced with the momentum that they had to go 4 wide there, and there's a reason why you don't want to be 4 wide here at Daytona for very long.
Yeah, 4 wide does not work very well here like it does at Talladega. Even on this older surface, even on the new surface here at Daytona, it is a narrower track than the likes of Talladega. So 4 wide, it really doesn't work, and it does look like they were trying to get it sorted out and back up to kind of get out of that 4 wide situation. But it was impressive seeing 3 wide for as long as we were, as Norris was leading that charge on the that middle lane and moving that entire line up through the field, trying to get those points for that stage end.
That was just wild to see, but you have to be aggressive if you realize there's chances to grab big points, and a lot of those drivers that need points are going to be up front challenging, as we are officially halfway through the stage. And it's James Scioli currently leading the charge up front, as he's also going to have Joshua Kanata behind him in the 16 machine. Kanata, one of those drivers also. Big point stake could help him catch up to Stitz and Jared Talmadge. So you're looking for any chance to go after these drivers. I'm here for everyone being up front, being aggressive. I mean, Richard, I know, like you said, you and I, we kind of raced last night in a league that was racing on the current Daytona configuration, but with the ways that these next-gen cars react, being up front might be the safest place to be, with the fact of checkups and how prevalent they are with this next-gen car.
Yeah, the checkups are wild. I mean, it's pretty much drivers further up in the field. They get a nice little rush from the draft. They get really close to the person in front of them, and if they're not the person leading, you don't really want to bump them, so they need to slow down a little bit, and it's just trying to maintain that speed. But then it's just an accordion effect throughout all the cars behind you, because they're doing the same thing. And that checkup can just ruin your race at times, give you some major front end damage, or spin you out like we kind of just saw there. So really being up front, like we said earlier, it is probably your safest bet to have a clean race, but it's a lot of skill to try to keep those front positions as well.
Some updates for some drivers that had to go into pit road and get service done. We already know the fact that we were expecting Andrew Medlin being involved with that spin. He was going to come into pit road and get service done. Other drivers that topped off with fuel and was just checking up on the damage. Going to be Shane Terry in the 9 machine topping off on fuel. Brian McCann was just checking to see what damage the 8 might have collected in that incident. Justin Malarkey having a little bit of damage repair for himself. Medlin, slight damage repair. Ryan Kelly, as well as Nate Crawford and Cedric Hunter, getting damage repair for themselves. One driver did exit the race for a quick moment, hoping to get back in We'll see what the extent of the damage is. It's John Forbes Jr., who is one of the only drivers that really could challenge Gavin Rogers for the regular season's championship. With the fact that he had to stay in pit road with this maybe potential damage that he's dealing with, this could hurt him for going for that regular season's championship. But he was going to need a perfect race if he was going to steal that from Gavin.
Yeah, and he did. I will say he was one of the drivers that actually did get involved with that incident. He did give a heavy shot to Medlin when he spun across the entire field. So that could have easily done some terminal damage to John Forbes. So he could have easily called it a night after that. But, you know, it'd be nice to see him get back in, hopefully get whatever damage is repaired, and maybe challenge for that regular season championship.
Is back out on track for the 11th, still on the lead lap, topping off with fuel and a slight damage repair. Going to be Justin Malarkey and Andrew Medlin once again, as we're stacked up and ready to go green here very shortly. It's James Scioli up front with Joshua Kanata, Jared Hughes, Ken Campbell, Zach Calder, Ealing, Christopher Norris, Kevin Rogers, GT Rosari, and Chris Stitz, your top 10, as we will have a 7-lap shootout to see who will be grabbing these stage bonus points before we are getting stage bonus points. Really could be a massive thing for these drivers if you're the likes of Chris Stitz, Jarrett Talmadge, Tom Sinchek, Brian Noel, Christopher Norris, Joshua Kanata. Those drivers know you need every point possible, so it's not just position-wise that you make it into the playoffs, but they're also aiming for the win, and what a way to get good practice here with a little bit of a quick shootout to the end of the stage.
Yeah, it's going to be 7 laps, and they take the green flag to the end of the stage. So it's going to be a very huge shootout for these drivers, and there's going to be a lot of shuffling around. The big question is who's going to be the one to dare the 3 wide moves, because when you're further back in the pack, that's the only way you're going to be able to make passes, is taking it 3 wide and forcing the envelope there. So I think it's going to be a wild and crazy shootout to the end of the stage. Unless these drivers have that sight in on the bigger picture and would rather finish the race than junk their car.
These drivers are stacked side by side, waiting for the pace car to make that hard left-hander to pit road. Thank you again for joining with us on your Wednesday evening, watching the WSSR Cup Series as we are entering the restart zone in green once again, as it's going to be James Scioli on the outside row being the control vehicle as the rest of the field ramping up to speed. It's the outside, though, with the better momentum initially. We'll see how they exit at turn 2, but it's looking clean on the outside, and it's Jared Hughes giving the big bumps to the 77 on the outer groove.
A great push from Jared Hughes, giving Scioli that nice push, gives him a good jump to the front there. He's not really challenged anybody inside yet, but he's going to stay up there, getting great pushes from Jared. Jared making sure that lead is getting a good buffer. That outside lane finally starting to hook up and maybe starting to surge forward. We'll see if the inside can link back up, but looks like a few drivers that will be 0-0. Brian Noel's going to force the envelope and take it 3 wide first.
Yeah, he's going to drop it to the middle groove, and the reason why, trying to pick up Douglas Newbegin in the 7 in the middle groove, also having Chris Stitz. They were trying to get the Lucky Duck drivers in line and find a way to clearance everyone and maybe drop down low, and they finally do for the 88 and the 7. Noel will drop down as well, and it's Lucky Ducks 3 on the inside and trying to catch up to their leader of James Scioli right now. And that was a perfect way to see teammates get in line, work together, and our biggest mover, give it to the 88 of Drew Jua and Brian Noel, both up over 10 positions for themselves.
Yeah, they are doing a great job. Great teamwork from these Lucky Ducks drivers. They know what's all at stake here, especially for that of Douglas Newbiggie, who needs a win. But he's just trying to get as many points as possible, just like the other 2 as well. So, but they are following that of Ken Campbell. No, I'm sorry, it's GT Irizarry, who is up here getting ready to race for the lead as he gets ready to pass James Scully on the inside.
Saw a chance to drop it down low in front of this Lucky Duck crew that was on the move, and a great move for himself, but now it's getting a little bit jostled. Bad bump going to be happening between the 00 and the 88 off the exit of the corner. Just got a little bit too antsy with the bump drafting, and the 14 moves high, slide side drafting, it works out. Gets a nose ahead through the center of the corner, and seeing them inside working so well. The problem, Lucky Ducks is missing Douglas Newbegin because he got side drafted to stay all the way in 8th place.
Joshua Kanata decided to take it to the middle, decided to side draft a little bit, which separated Douglas Newbegin from his teammates. But he's going to jump up to the middle there, try to bring along Joshua Kanata to try and make some moves. They get a little close there, a little squirrely as he's 3 wide. We've got 2 rows, 3 wide right now. Newbegin having a little bit of issue keeping that car straight, but they're doing a good job. Kanata's going to look low, and Newbegin's going to move high, and they're still 3 wide further on behind them.
And the reason why GT fell like a rock, he lost help. It was Brian Noel, Drew Jua. They both did a great dashing move to the outside to get by the 14. And now it's Lucky Ducks going to be 1, 2, 3. Instead of it being Newbegin, it's now Sky only 3rd in line. The 7's got a lot of work to try to get back up with his teammates, but he did a lot of that heavy lifting to help that crew get to where they are in the top 3. Now we look back at some of the other drivers that are trying to find some big runs to go for some passes potentially, or do you just stay in line as we're riding on board with the 16 of Joshua Kanata. This is Nicholas Renner in the 94. And getting a sense with Renner, he's just trying to run and stay in line on the outside. It is single file for majority of the drivers as Douglas Newbegin attempts to go for a pass by himself, and it looks like he will make that pass be made.
Huge momentum from Douglas Newbegin going into turn 3 and made a daring move. Shot low below Vincent Soren, had just enough room to slide his car back up in there, so that's another position he's going to leapfrog ahead. That was a fantastic move and just unheard of usually when you make a pass by yourself.
I mean, a pass by yourself, it's so tough because you don't know if you're going to see that spacing that allows you to go for a pass like that. And it's really helpful the fact that Vincent Sora backed off and there was spacing there. We'll see if there's another big run. And I think Vincent Sora might be trying to get that spot back potentially, as you're seeing around GT Rosari, Shane Terry, and John Forbes Jr. and others. This is around 15th, 16th, and 17th position you see on screen of drivers starting to fade backwards. But up front, the outside lane trying to pull away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, the outside lane has hooked up and is moving. A train has started. Douglas Newbegin looking low again, trying to make another pass, this time on Brian P. Johnson. And he's got a little bit of help from Vincent Sora, but he's not going to be able to make the pass. Brian P. Johnson stays in the position, but it looks like Newbegin's going to come back up. Vincent Sora nice enough to let him up, it looks like, but no, Vincent Sora now diving low to try to make a pass on Douglas.
And Nicholas Renner trying to give a bump to that 51 to help them go forward, but just too much momentum, just proving how amazing that pass was from Douglas Newbegin just that 3 laps ago. It's so difficult to make that move a second time because now everyone knows, hey, this driver might go for a pass. Instead, we're starting to see a little bit of shuffling as Jared Hughes gets kind of shuffled out of the way. Everyone drops low, the 68 goes backwards, and its big moves go high, low, and find some allies to go forward because Lucky Ducks is in trouble. We're seeing them being split up. It's Zach Hall dropping to the inside with Brian P. Johnson and a mixture all around. And the end of the stage as they come across the line, looks like it was going to be Drew Jua fighting there, and Brian Noel actually will take that position. But just giving a preview of coming to the end of the line at the end of the stage, everyone was scrapping for spots, and somehow it wasn't an on-track incident to finish out the stage there.
Great work by all the drivers, and that was as chaotic as you can get while staying clean as well. Drivers scrambling all over the track trying to get that 1 or 2 extra points from passing a car or two, but Brian Noel and Lucky Ducks taking P1 and P2 here at the end of the stage.
Brian Noel, well, congratulations to Lucky Ducks on a fabulous charge to get up there. As your biggest movers of the day, well, they're the drivers that finish 1-2 at the end of the stage. Brian Noel up 28 spots from where he started this race back in 29th, up 20 positions as Douglas is going to be Drew Jua in second, up 20 positions. And both of them, I mean, the only drivers to be over 20 spots moving, but just proving their fact of doesn't matter where you start, everyone's got a chance to get up front.
Oh man, and Brian Noel has done a wonderful job with his teammates coming from the back of the field up front. And he had a great teacher to basically lead him there, Drew Jua, who we've seen do that multiple times this season, including getting a win from doing it. So great work from the Lucky Ducks. And, you know, while they're getting ready to go into bits here, Sam, I just decided to take a quick look at the track temperature. You know, we started qualifying at 126. They're up to 131 degrees on track temperature right now.
slipping and sliding, it is going to get more and more dangerous. And wait and see if maybe even some of the drivers might give us a report of what their tires look like after that quick run that we got to see these drivers have. But man, that was fun to watch. Drivers being patient until those final 3-4 laps. Then big moves were being tossed around. And shockingly, Richard, I don't think I was expecting to see this. With how hot this track is, how much you kind of touched on, there was a chance that that tire wear could be a factor. We got a lot of drivers going with 2 tires, no tires. They're not taking the chance for tires, even though that was your one for sure caution that was coming out here tonight.
Yeah, that's very intriguing. We're definitely gonna have to talk to a driver and figure out what they're seeing in that, if tires really think they matter or not. But I mean, again, typically in a regular Daytona race on the current configuration, tires aren't that big of a deal. So just take the 2 tires, fill up on gas, and get that track position, because honestly, track position's way more key if the car is still feeling pretty stable and easy to drive.
Well, speaking about talking to a driver, let's talk to the driver that found himself leading, coming to the end of the stage. Let's talk to that 00 of Brian Noel and see how this 00 machine's feeling after that charge. Brian, it's Sam and Richard up at the booth. How are you feeling? Stage winner this 00 just got.
Feel pretty good. I mean, I think that showed some of the teamwork that, Lucky Ducks can do. So, I just, with my point situation, I knew I had to be a little bit more aggressive for the stage because, just 10 points was kind of too difficult to try and pass up and try and wait around just in case, getting a shot at the win later. So, yeah, the car feels fine. The track, it's just a little bumpy, but that's old Daytona, so that's part of what makes it special, I guess.
Yeah, and that was fantastic work coming from the back all the way to the front. You utilizing the work of your teammate Drew Jewett, who's done it multiple times this season. But I mean, those 10 points will definitely help you. Are your eyes set on those points now to try to get into the playoffs, as it's last chance for this race?
I mean, I'd like to be a little bit more conservative now, but if the opportunity presents itself to try to win, I'll do that. But I think the next order of business for strategy purposes for me personally is to bring it home and get a good finish and tack on those 10 bonus points to my final finishing spot.
Sounds like a great plan there, Brian. Well, enjoy your stage win, and hopefully we'll be talking to you at the end of the night.
Yeah, thank you guys.
That will be the Lucky Ducks driver, Brian Noel in the 00. He'll be starting second here as Andrew Medlin, who actually came into pit road, topped off on fuel 5 laps ago. He will stay out. So a different strategy call. Everyone else came into pit road. The 12 stays out. He'll get a lap led for Medlin, and now he'll be the lead driver on the inside group with Zach Hull, James Scioli behind him. And Richard, any final quick thoughts before we go green? Because the stage is over. It's all about the win now.
I think that's a wild decision for Andrew Medlin to stay out. I mean, granted, he's only been out 5 laps longer, but that can really mess up a fuel strategy. So I hope he's got some teammates that are going to be on a even pitting idea of when they're all going to come in together, because I mean, if anybody wants to run 3 or 4 laps longer than him, he's going to be out to dry and all by himself with no drafting help. So interesting call by him. But other than that, I mean, this is either where things are going to calm down and people are just going to wait to the end, or we're going to see still some crazy moves to get their drivers up front for that playoff chance.
As the regular season is slowly coming to a close, we got to see how exciting it can get to an end of a stage. Well, let's see how the drivers want to see their tempers maybe calm down, or do they ramp up even more as green flag is back in the air. Andrew Medlin in a quick jump, but a few drivers back around 7th place didn't get going either, and it's everyone to the top. It's only Medlin in Hall that stay low, and the driver who wants to lead this race, he was the leader of in the middle groove earlier in the run. It's Christopher Norris right on the back bumper of that 00.
Christopher Norris has made his way to the front here. A great pit strategy, or pit call, I guess, is what helped get him up here. Because like I said, track position is key, especially here at Daytona. You want to stay in front of any of the issues in the back. And he is pushing Brian Noel straight to the front as they get a hefty lead over that of Andrew Medlin on the inside.
Medlin's going to be falling back, and He will now be having some help from Drew Jewell, but Christopher Norris doesn't want to wait. He wants to be the leader of this race, and the 38 ducks low. He'll get in front of the 00, but that move might have been a little bit too soon because it's Vincent Sora, John Forbes working the inside pack. Everyone else is caught up, and we're 2 by 2, and it's the 38 starting to lose a little bit of touch on the outside.
Yeah, he lost a little bit of touch as 3 drivers drive right up in front of him, Sora, Forbes, and Scioli. So now Norris from the lead back to 4th in one swift move, but Norris did lead that lap. That'll give him 1 extra point in his chase for the playoff spot. So that's probably what he was looking to do, is getting that 1 point, and he did. So that's good for him in his point lookout, but he's still got to finish a great race, as it's still a lot of shuffling in the back here, and Douglas Newbigging trying to make his way up front to get with his Lucky Duck teammates.
And currently just watching the lead pack in front of Douglas Newbigging. You can see here, it's 2 by 2. Everyone instead of the top 10. And the big run's going around as Brian Noel, trouble for the 00, gets shuffled in the 3rd groove. I don't know if it was a bad bump or a netcode issue, but the 00 with a very bizarre surge to the outside. We're going to have to keep an eye out on that and see if Noel's okay, but losing ground of being inside of the top 10, now outside of the top 15.
Yeah, going back and looking, it does look like it was a little bit of a netcode issue. The car just kind of turned right up into the wall as he got close to Norris's bumpers. So very strange situation for Noel, but it put him up into the wall, and now he's pretty far back now in the field. But Douglas Newbigging trying to make that middle lane work again as he takes it 3 wide. And there he goes, making the leapfrog pass that we saw him do extremely well earlier in the stage.
And the big reason why it's working for Douglas Newbigging, he's making these moves count with big momentum surges, and he's not hesitating and staying side by side with someone very long. He is trying to make the big moves as immediately as possible and then get back in line. If you stay side by side for too long, that side draft pulls your car back, and right now Newbigging's stuck. He's being side drafted by going to be Medlin, and Medlin's pulling the 7 back and not allowing Luck Ducks to pull away.
Oh, it looked like they were going to have Joshua Kanata behind them, helping that in the middle lane, but nope. They're able to get enough speed and get in front of Medlin. Medlin tried doing the side draft, couldn't do it enough, and it looks like Newbigging and Drew Jewell are able to get in front of that inside line, but they're still going to need a lot more help because that outside line is hooked up with a ton of cars in that train. But Joshua Kanata going to look low and join these 3 on the bottom and try to make it work. And Brian Noel working his way up to get with his teammates also after getting into the wall. He's making his way back up on the inside.
I mean, Richard, this song and dance that these drivers are showing right now, it is tough to go in and out as Rick Crawford with a big surge to the apron. Netcode is going to be a big talking point, but getting some space, working together, showing how powerful it is to stay on someone's back bumper. Drew Jewell, Douglas Newbigging, 1-2 coming across the line. What a surge by those 2 drivers by themselves at the inside.
Great pushing coming in from Douglas Newbigging, getting Drew Jewell out to the front. These 2 are back up front and fighting for that lead. Lucky Ducks knows Douglas Newbigging needs this win. So if they can get up front and stay up front, they can kind of control this race, especially with a good pit stop strategy. So they are in position to do it with James Scioli just their 3rd car in the outside line. Lucky Ducks is in a fantastic position to try and control this race and make those moves to get their teammates into the win.
If you're just joining us now, this is the last race of the regular season. A lot of different point scenarios that we're looking at. One of the big ones of note, Cody Reed. We had harped on it a lot last week. Cody needs big points because if he has big points, he practically just has to show up this week, and he would be making it into the playoffs with his win at Atlanta to start the season off. Cody got a suspension with too many incident points throughout the season. He was not able to race here tonight. The driver that he was watching out for, Samuel Garcia. If Garcia finishes inside of the top 8, he will be knocking Cody Reed out of the top 25 in points, and Cody Reed would not race for a championship and would miss the playoffs. Luckily for Cody, Samuel Garcia is back in 27th position, so his hopes of making playoffs are very much wide open. For Chris Stitz, Jared Talmadge, and some of the drivers at our cutoff line, if they see some of the drivers such as Jared Talmadge, Tom Sinchek, Brian Noel, Christopher Norris, Joshua Kanata, Also Douglas Newbigin and Justin Malarkey. If any one of them win, that could be bouncing out one of those cutoff drivers from making it into the playoffs based off of points. And Richard, based on what we're seeing right now, Douglas Newbigin, also Joshua Kanata, Christopher North, Brian Noel, they recognize it's a win and you're in scenario that they're fighting for, and they're putting it all on the line right now.
And as they should, there's no more races left before the playoffs start. So this is the time you need to make the big moves, because if you have nothing that you're racing for, I mean, what's the point of racing hard? So they know they got to get the win, and a win, like you said, can completely change this points standings up. So a new driver winning this race completely shifts everybody, and we could have even, you know, a driver we thought was in not make it due to that.
See Douglas Newbigin leading on the outside, having Scioli behind him. Also Drew Jua. I mean, there is a lot of alliances. Find a friend, some making new friends for themselves. And Richard, we're still in the first half of this race. We just completed a stage. How much of these early portions of a race really change up your idea of a driver if you've never raced around some of these guys in a super speedway type of arena before?
You know, it's like I've been harping, getting up front and staying up front is probably your safest option. So at some point in time, some of these drivers are going to give up on that aspect of trying to get to the front and staying there. Just kind of got to chill and wait, because we still have a lot of racing left, and we still have green flag pit stops that are going to take place unless the caution comes out, you know, in about 10 or 20 laps. So you still got to worry about that, worry about getting with some people you don't normally race with, and hopefully making some alliances, because you need a big group of drivers to pit with you, or you to pit with, because you can come out with one other driver, you will not have the speed that of a group of 4 drivers or more. So trying to make an alliance, find some friends on the track, figure out who you're going to pit with, that is all key in trying to win here at Daytona.
Renner trying to make a big move by himself, but there's no space to do it, not enough momentum, as he will get back in line as they were through one for a quick moment. As that pit window we're looking for, around lap 60, a little bit after 60 when you go into pit road, but this could, if we stay green, be a one-stop race. And when we look at the history of Daytona, this racetrack configuration has only been raced one time, and that was back in season 8 when they were running the Gen 4 ARCA cars in the WSSR series. All the other times they raced on the current configuration, much smoother Daytona. But if you look at the past, the caution counts, 2 is the lowest they've ever had. That was a stage caution, and then the ultimate on-track incident. If you look after 2 cautions, there's been 2 races with 4 cautions that have been thrown. There's been 2 races with 7 cautions thrown. Back in season 6, they had the most cautions of 8. So they're looking at a range of 2 to 8 cautions in a race right now. And I mean, it might be a competitor's curse, might be throwing out a risky move here, Richard, but based on what I'm seeing, this race could turn into just a 2 caution race once we get later on in the run, when everyone knows you've got to make the big moves now.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. We're going to knock on wood for that, because anything can happen. And I mean, the big one is almost guaranteed here at Daytona. And I think we won't have, I mean, me personally, I don't think we'll have the only 2 caution, the one we had in the stage and then the stage caution. I don't think that'll be the case, because these drivers know there's a lot on the line, especially for those that are within the top 25 that have a chance of getting a win. They're all going to lay it, everything they have out here. And sometimes making those big moves, they might not be the smartest moves sometimes from any of these drivers, but when your goal is set on winning this race, sometimes a smart move is kind of out the window. You just stick it somewhere and hope it works. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of those moves throughout the rest of this race.
Also an update on the field, as this is going to be a constant flow we got to keep up on. Is everyone still attached to the lead pack? Because they know there is no more stage yellows, there's no absolute of a caution coming out. You have to stay with this lead pack. You want a chance to win, and all 31 drivers are still attached. You see that shot. All those drivers, that's the whole field that's on track, still attached. All within 2 seconds is 31 drivers, 2 by 2. No one's single filing out. And this is what we love about Daytona, and everyone giving space, and that's what we love to see the most.
It is what you love to see. All drivers here and fighting for every position possible.
No,
all 31, we got cars down on the apron. That's Shane Terrian but they're coming up and they're able to merge back into traffic. We might have our first car that's going to be out of the draft if he doesn't get back up into the track fast enough. But that's Garcia, the driver that has a chance of knocking Cody Reed out of playoff contention, and he's going to lose the draft.
I don't know if Cody Reed is just praying for a curse or something, but this 50 machine has lost the draft. He's got no help, and Samuel Garcia is in massive help and need for a yellow. There's also a collection of drivers from 25th back to 30th that are starting to lose the draft to the leaders. They need to get rolling now. That's going to be Jared Hughes, Shane Terry, and Larry Yingling. If they want to catch up to this lead pack, they have to hit their marks quickly because they're with under a second. But if they don't get rolling on speed, they could be losing the draft very easily here.
Yeah, you can quickly lose the draft here at Daytona since this most recent update, like we were talking about earlier in the race. So they have got to get linked up. They've got to stay smooth, stay in that wake from the car in front of them, be able to catch back up. But Samuel Garcia is now basically out of the draft. And I'm not going to lie, that's kind of a little bit of a commentator curse from us as we were talking about having all 31 cars in the pack. And now we've got one outlier. So Sam Garcia is definitely hoping for a caution to happen so he can get back up and have a potential chance at winning this race and winning his way into the playoffs.
The one driver that was hoping to point his way in and also has lost the draft, that's Jarrett Talmadge. He got 2 bonus points at the end of the stage, but it might be null and void as he's down in 29th position. He's lost the draft to draft by Brian Kelly as they're both in 29th and 30th. The struggles hitting some of the drivers that needed a critical, important race for themselves, as those are the 3 drivers that are off pace. Your top 28 still connected with the draft, and it's up front where they're really showing the most chaos, and it's around the 00 at the 51. Noel Sora almost making contact in the center of 3 and 4.
And you can tell these drivers know everything's on the line and they are giving everything. They are aggressive. These cars have been dancing all over the track, sometimes getting inches from each other's doors. So the tires, I feel this might be a tire situation where these tires might be giving out a little bit, which is why they're kind of moving all over the place. But, you know, it could be that or just the aggression. But we got a driver now dropping low to pull up Douglas Newbegin on the inside line. We got a 5-car line now on the inside. Let's see if they can link up and move forward. That's the 13 of Cedric Hunter.
Cedric Hunter in the 13 machine trying to pull along and be the control vehicle on the inside row. Also John Forbes on the outside. And the big thing, when you're these lead drivers, you're just hoping that you're ahead and you don't get too big of a lead that allows... Oh no, Cedric gets tapped, spun into the grass. He keeps it down low and he comes back from the racing surface right in front of Newbegin and the rest of the field. Oh, collision. Hunter into Benkini and the yellow finally comes out.
Yellow is out in an unfortunate push from Douglas Newbegin, gets Cedric Hunter around, and he just not fully in control of that car, comes back up into the field, collects a few others, and the caution comes out. But unfortunate, especially for that of Douglas Newbegin, because that drops him to the back of the field as well.
And Larry Yingling somehow escapes away from those other drivers that went for a ride. I believe it was the 68, and there's the contact and the spill into the grass and through the tri-oval. I mean, that is the most difficult place to give a push and hold on. And Cedric Hunter, once you go into the grass, you're kind of just a waiting victim of where drivers will go. There's the initial contact. There's the second on the 13. No required damage flag given out to these drivers, so their races aren't officially over. But, I mean, Richard, the tri-oval, especially on this 08 configuration track, this is the lightest point of the course where if you get a bad bump just a little off, you see that type of situation.
Yeah, it was. And the thing is about the Chevys also on the surface, their nose isn't as flat as the Fords and the Toyotas. And that was a heavy hit from Ben Keeney onto Cedric Hunter there, straight into the passenger side panel. But, I mean, yeah, the tri-oval, the cars get really light there, and just the slightest tap that's not on center is exactly what we saw there. And then Cedric Hunter going through the grass. I mean, these cars, they've got slick tires on. They don't have dirt tires on, so there's no grip when you're sliding through the grass, and he just slides and can't really keep that car under control and load that car down and got back up into the field up in the straightaway.
Right there, and you could tell Douglas was trying his best not to lift that bump. Wasn't able to. I mean, with Ben's incident, well, we were doing a right on board with the 98. You could tell that he was doing everything right in that scenario. He was slowing down, keeping pace with everyone around him. I think the only other thing he could have done was just try to stop. But at that point, a yellow flag was not thrown. It wasn't until the contact was made that the yellow flag finally was thrown for the field. So for Ben, that's just a very unfortunate circumstance contact. But again, no required damage for any of the vehicles. We'll have to wait and see how much damage officially they took on. As drivers into pit road getting service done, this still is outside the window from taking it to the end. There's still one more stop to go as drivers are exiting out of pit road. We're going to take our first commercial break of the evening as drivers get repairs done, about to get racing once again. The field here tonight for the WSSR Cup Series. No, it's critical. It's the final race of the regular season at Daytona, and we will be back with more coverage after this as we are about to conclude the first half of tonight's race. Get ready for the madness. The second half, it's going to be even more. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting as you are watching the WSSR Cup Series on Wednesday night. Tonight's race is race number 12 of the season, last race of the regular season. To see who will be the 16 drivers to race for the playoffs starting next week at Watkins Glen. As currently, looking at where the field runs now, Cody Reed, who got his win at the start of the season at Atlanta, he got a suspension here tonight. His fates were in basically the hands of Samuel Garcia. Garcia still runs in 21st place, so Cody Reed, you're still in the playoffs for now, but we still have a little over half the race to go here tonight. 3 cautions in the books, 2 on track, 1 at the stage caution. Can we stay green? Let's find out as green flag is back in the air here tonight, as it's going to be seeing the Lucky Ducks drivers of James Scioli, Drew Jua going to be in the line for now as they head into turn number 1. Richard, it looks good for the Lucky Ducks drivers, but I think they might have got too big of a gap. Watch out for the run for everyone else.
Yeah, that surge ahead for Lucky Ducks was amazing. They had a fantastic restart. We got a group that's kind of getting separated in the back there, but that surge might have been too far ahead. That's going to allow that group to get a draft from them and get a massive momentum against them. But they're going to move to the outside in front of Vincent Sora. Vincent nowhere to go, but just right on their bumper. So they're going to stay behind them. That outside line is now going to link up and try to get their momentum rolling again like they've been all race long. Brian McCann slotting up into the outside as well in front of Zachary Hall. Christopher Norris also slotting up there as they're abandoning that inside line. Justin, it looks like we got 74 of Crawford and Gavin Rogers there on the inside, the last two left standing. So we'll see what they do, if they will stay down there or slot up to the outside as well, as it is a Hornet's nest behind them.
It is a Hornet's Nest, and there's a lot of side drafting going on. That's hurting everyone's run. As drivers that needed the caution got it. That's going to be Jared Talmadge in the 27. He's trying to work with the two. Danny Cochran on the outside, running his Kevin Harvick throwback scheme and trying to get that two machine moving as quickly as possible. As the 27, the Robbie Gordon throwback scheme. Tonight is throwback night. We'll throwbacks all throughout the course, but an outside row all in line until you fall back to 17th position. And Talmadge as well as Cochran, they are working forward and have to be feeling good on the fact that they've been able to close in on the top runners even though they're on line.
Yeah, a huge line for the front line. And Danny Cochran, you said it was a Kevin Harvick throwback. I saw Joey Logano throwback, but both works for sure. But Douglas Newbigging, he is trying to catch back up, sitting there with Ken Campbell back there currently in the 17th and 18th positions. But Douglas Newbigging, he has got to figure a way to get back up front. He does have a teammate of Brian Noel still a few cars behind him, so he's going to hope they can link up and make a surge forward. But Douglas Newbigging trying to make another leapfrog. It might make two passes here, but not enough space to move up. He might get left out to dry on the inside.
High risk, high reward, but it comes with the risk of losing plenty of positions. And you see, try to grab two and losing four. Luckily has the help of Christopher Wade, and Lucky Duck Driver finds Lucky Duck Driver as Douglas Newbigging and Noel get in line. And so the drivers that were involved with the earlier incident still able to keep up with decent pace. As you're seeing also John Forbes, as well as seeing Jared Hughes, as well as Shane Terrian, and also the 13 Cedric Hunter, at least keeping pace in the draft. But we are now in the train mode, as they could say. Everyone in line, everyone staying high. And Richard, this is the point of the race where everyone knows we're being patient until pit stops are within 10 laps before you got to make those pit stops.
Yeah, I think this is the time that everyone's just going to line it up. Just take it easy. They don't want another wreck to kind of ruin each other's races here. So, but now it's basically what we like to say the slightly boring part of the Daytona racing, where it's just a line and train of cars going around the track. But this is a strategy these drivers try to make, as Douglas Newbigging again trying to make the leapfrog moves around drivers. He knows he needs to get that win, and he doesn't want to sit back here. The Lucky Ducks drivers, they want to be all together, all four of them. But they're just not able to get these passes done. The drivers in front of him are doing a great job at keeping those gaps small. Douglas has got to do a better job of getting that side draft down onto John Forbes to be able to pull him backward and get that pass complete. But his little leapfrog move is not doing its work right now.
Certainly it's not one driver that's taking advantage of these drivers that are backing off and setting up for a run. You see the 9, you see the 3, it's Shane Terrian and Ryan Kelly with the big surge. They're seeing everyone checking up to stay in line on the outside, and it's now given a chance for, if you get a two-car tandem, moving forward, and if you can find the space, this 3 and 9 machine might be able to move up and slot just in front of Garcia that currently runs in 19th position.
And Garcia's making his way up also, but Shane Terry and Ryan Kelly, they're starting to pull other cars down there as well. They're going to try to get a train started on the inside line to surge forward. So right now it's Shane Terry and Ryan Kelly, and I believe Cedric Hunter as well back there with that group, and the 67 of Larry Yangling, who has fallen all the way back to the 29th position, 30th position. and Christopher Wade. So they got a 5-car train started on the inside line there. Let's see if they can start making some moves and gaining some time on those leaders and building this inside line up to try and make it too wide again and like force drivers' hands on what they want to do and what strategy they want to pull and get ready for pit stops.
I kind of want to go back into that cockpit camera that we were just on with Shane Terry. We harp on it every week, I feel like, but if you're just watching WSSR for the first time and you've never watched Shane Terry in a race before and be in the cockpit, this 9 machine is a very unique situation compared to majority of the field, the majority of iRacing drivers. The 9 is racing with the controller. Richard, when you see those hands and the way they're working on that steering wheel, you wouldn't think that he's racing with a joystick.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's a phenomenal driver on a controller, and I've got to say, I can agree with him because we've talked to him before, and he said that he's, you know, a lot of his racing experiences come from that of like Gran Turismo, and I can agree with him. I grew up playing Gran Turismo also. We didn't have steering wheels back then. I had to use a controller and joystick, so if this is something that he's used to, this is as smooth as you can get with a joystick for sure. And his skill using a controller only is just as good as some of these other drivers with the actual full sim rig setup with steering wheel and pedals. So he's doing a great job using only a controller.
It's now seeing the run building up. Now we're going to go back to that wide shot because we're starting to see a little bit of movement. And it's Douglas Newbigin, no surprise, trying to find a way to take positions forward for himself. And as Justin Malarkey tightens up further on back, they're going to be a tight squeeze 3 wide, battling for practically last place as they are running forward in 18th position. And the 7, the 11, they were trying to make the surge forward together as a tandem and was hoping that anyone could follow them forward, but the side drafting is hurting everyone. It's backing off, and now they got to get back in line 2 by 2 because if we stay 3 wide for too long, we might get in a scenario of our first caution where someone's going to get a bad bump and things are going to go awry.
It is. We still got drivers taking it 3 wide now. They were all in a line originally. We've got 2 and 3 rows now. GT Irizarry tried to lead that row, but now he's going to get stuck in the sucker hole almost. He's not going to be able to move up. He had the room, but didn't take the chance as Andrew Medlin closed the door on him. But he's going to be able to slot up in front of Nick Crawford and get the 3 wide racing done. Back to side-by-side racing here in WSSR at Daytona International Speedway.
I mean, we talk about how hesitation can be so dangerous just in real life racing and just driving on a common road. Hesitating and going almost 200 miles per hour, even more dangerous as these drivers, if you're told by your spotter that you're clear, you got to make the move, and that's not the move you want to make as Medlin involved. Larry Yingling goes around, and it's Newbigin and also Malarkey through the grass, and another caution is thrown.
And that was just a situation of Nick Crawford and Douglas Newbigin trying to shoot to the middle with GT Irizarry, and it was like a synchronized move by both of them as they tried to go to the middle lane together, and 2 cars cannot occupy the same space, and that is what started this small wreck involving a few drivers that are trying to win their way into the playoffs.
If you ever wondered what a racing incident wreck looks like, that's it. Both drivers, like you said, same spot, but you don't have enough room to take over the same scenario, and that real estate is full, and we'll take another look at it. And again, it's GT Irizarry in the 14th. They sneak down to that little groove, and then it's, well, he's making the move. I'll go with him. Wait a minute, there's another driver there.
Yeah, that was just 2 drivers. They thought they could get to that middle lane. They did not know they both were going to go there together because they're not teammates. They're not communicating together, but they both had the exact same idea at the exact same time. And Nick Crawford is the one that kind of came out on top there, sadly, as he's the one that really spun Andrew Medlin, but that pushed all the cars to the inside. Nick Crawford able to drive through. But we'll see if Douglas Newbigin can get that damage. He will have a little bit of front end damage on that car after that hit on Larry Yingling as well. So it's going to have some time, take some of that, get that damage repaired in the pits, and he's still got a huge mountain to climb to get back up with the flock of lucky ducks so they can fly together towards the lead.
With the time of this yellow, drivers are still going to be short on fuel, but they're going to be a lot more manageable, you could say. Going to be about 4 to 6 laps off of making it to the end of this race if we go green. After taking this restart, take a look at the Lucky Ducks number 7 of James Scioli's machine and seeing how the drivers, how well do they or will they think of turning this race more into a fuel mileage run and everyone as a collective backing off on their pace. That's kind of what I feel like Daytona has turned into in current NASCAR, with the way that stage racing has turned into. It's kind of back off, save the fuel, and then we can start racing the final 10 to 15 laps. I'm curious if it's going to be a collective group mentality of that, or if it's go full bore and then make a quick splash and go at the end of a run.
Yeah, that's a very good thing to think about. And I've raced with these guys before as well at Daytona at the current configuration. And I've had a race or two where the leaders, they controlled the pace of the race and they made it a fuel mileage race. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do and whether or not we'll get a split strategy or not. Because if a group of drivers can work together and get a good lead ahead of those trying to save fuel, that could force the hand of some of these drivers, and either, we can't let them stay ahead of like this and we got to catch up to them, which is going to waste fuel and it's going to force pit stops, or you're going to have two drivers in the front that's going to control the pace and they're going to just save fuel all the way to the end. So we'll see if it's even possible, because 4 to 6 laps is still a huge amount of time to save a lot of fuel that they need to save in order to make those laps count.
It certainly is a lot of fuel. And we also, since we have time under this caution, we want to say thank you to our sponsors that help out for the WSSR Cup Series for Season 10. One of those being GTR Simulators. GTR Simulators is your place to go to get that experience of pro-level racing at home. Remember to go check out their website at gtrsimulators.com and go check out their wider range of simulator setups. Currently, they're promoting their GTA Compact V2 Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber, as F1 season's right around the corner. We're just about a month away from the season starting. Why not get a little bit of a taste of F1 at gtrsimulators.com? And when purchasing one of their amazing simulators, remember to use the promo code WSSR. Again, that is gtrsimulators.com to experience pro-level racing at home with their GTA Compact V2 Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. Also want to say thank you to the trophy provider for the past couple of seasons. I should say the past couple of seasons. It's been for majority of the time for the WSSR. That's Trophy Smack. From championship belts, rings, trophies, and more, from pre-made to customized to your liking, go to trophysmack.com and use the promo code WSSR SMACK. That's WSSR SMACK. WSSR SMACK is the promo code for 10% off at trophysmack.com. Well, Richard, they're on the backstretch. We're about to go green. We're seeing 3 wide as the dangerous move for a lot of these drivers to make, but we still have over 45 laps to go. A little bit under 45 laps to go. I don't see this field calming down anytime soon, especially because we're close to that fuel window.
Yeah, we were very close to that fuel window, but also during those, while you were reading the ad, we had 12th place on back. Go back down pit road and top off on fuel. So those drivers are looking at potentially making the rest of this race on not having to stop. So we might have a split strategy here of what these drivers plan on doing. This front row, or this front group of 11 drivers, might try to pull away and get a big enough lead to where they can come in pit, splash up on fuel, and get back out before they catch them back up. Or, or they're going to still try and save. But, the fact that over half the field came back down for fuel, their goal is to try to save as the pace car takes that hard left back onto pit road.
And if you're topped off, you need about 3 to 4 laps of saving fuel. We'll see who's saving, who's going full bore, because we're back to green flag action. And it's James Scioli leading the charge. Everyone else that's on the inside row, they topped off on fuel. And we'll see what pace these drivers want to put down. So the fastest laps that we've seen here tonight, a little bit under 46 seconds. Some of these drivers have hit at 45.8 for Jared Tallman. He's one of the fastest laps of the evening so far. We'll see if any of these drivers want to go over 49 seconds, over 50 seconds, or actually pace down a little bit more than that. As we'll see in these next couple of laps, this is going to be the tone-setting positions. It's going to be Joshua Kanata, James Scioli leading the charge up front. The 16 going to be loving this because he wants to lead a lap to get that bonus point. Everyone else, though, where is the scenario? How do you want to react? Because this is critical to make the decision early on.
And, I was just thinking of it also, Sam, as a driver myself as well. Those drivers in the back that decided to come back down and top off on fuel, even if they want to run down with this field and try to just do the green flag pit stops, that's going to be a little less time on pit road, and that can also be a huge difference on your track position as well of getting out in front of other drivers. So that's another smart move by those drivers in the back.
That last lap at 51.4, that is way off pace from what we're expecting to see. If you're trying to go our normal pace for these drivers, it's low 50-second lap times that they're going to be putting down, maybe even 49-second lap times. And across the line, 47.0. I would say, Richard, we're going full speed for the drivers up front, and everyone else trying to stay attached, to stick with the draft so you can get that help to try to save fuel by not going full speed.
It definitely looks like they're not going to be worrying about fuel. They're going to be aiming to take the green flag pit stop, as they will not make it on fuel going this fast. So they're here to race, they're here to put on a good show, and they're going to be aiming to take a green flag pit stop unless another caution happens. So these drivers, they're here, they're ready to win, and Lucky Ducks on the outside there in positions 2 and 4, basically. They're going to try to work together. They got Drew Jewell also up there. The only person they're missing, Douglas Newbigging, the one driver that needs a win and to be able to get in, is he's not going to be able to get in on points.
No, he is not. And Cedric Hunter, Douglas Newbigging, way off pace currently, dealing with damage for both of them. Back in 28th and 29th position, running about almost 3 seconds off of our leaders, 2.5 to 3 seconds for 13 and 7, as they are far off the pace, about 9 seconds off the leader. Everyone else, though, our top 27 are in this lead pack. We have lost 2 official drivers here this evening, named Nicholas Renner and Ben Keeney, over our previous caution that we had, and everyone else out on track on the lead lap and continuing to race on. Vincent Sora, James Scioli going to be the front runners currently. Those that topped off on fuel currently running is Samuel Garcia in 12th place. If you're Cody Reed, that's not good, because he's inching closer and closer to 8th place, where if the 50 machine finishes inside of the top 8, he would be knocking Cody Reed out of the playoffs.
Yeah, sitting back in 12th, that's only 4 cars. Now there's still a lot of racing to go, just under 40 laps left of this race. So it's still possible that he doesn't get that top 8, but he is in the striking position to get there. But for Samuel Garcia, that doesn't really matter to him. He wants that win. He wants to be in the playoffs. And winning this race not only will put him in the playoffs, but he'll be in the top 25 to be ensured he's in the playoffs as well, which would, in fact, knock Cody Reed out of contention for the playoff chance.
Yeah, it would be a dismal situation for Cody Reed to see this run kind of just disappear. But if you're Samuel Garcia, I mean, this season, he has shown a decent pace at some tracks. He's gotten 1 top 10 this season, but what a sneaky win it could be for him to just slide in with a win here tonight, and also to bounce out Cody Reed on the same motion. Everyone else, though, they are in survival mode. Chris Stitz entered tonight as that driver on the cutoff line if Cody Reed had made it into the playoffs. And currently runs back in 24th position, and this is not good enough for the 17. He is past the racing mentality of where are those drivers that are trying to outpoint me, and I need to be ahead of them. And one of those drivers, 1 second, that's where Jared Talmadge is. Now you call him the leader as the 27, big move for himself, getting help from Joshua Kanata. The inside row is moving, trying to get by Vincent Sora and co.
Yeah, they are doing a great job linking up, and they are moving that inside line ever forward. But the outside line, they really haven't gotten bumper to bumper in a while, so they're probably saving a little bit of energy to make a surge forward. And there we go, Scioli getting the back of Vincent Sora up there, and trying to move that line forward.
To find a way to get it moving forward, but looking at the pace for these drivers, I'm going to go check a little bit more in depth, but looking at the drivers' fastest laps, the last couple of laps, I mean, it doesn't look like yes, we want to be up front and racing as fast as we can, but I mean, these drivers' pace, they're just willing to be in cruise control, it looks like. For some, they're willing to back off, get in line, maybe save a little bit of fuel here or there, try to make this pit stop as short as it can be if you need to come into pit road, or find a way to save fuel is going to be the big margin for the drivers in the middle of this pack.
It is. I mean, the less time you spend on pit road, that can gain you 1 or 2 positions during that green stop, flag pit stop. So, I mean, when you're leading the pack, you are using more fuel because you are 100% in the throttle. Whereas the drivers behind you, they have less car resistance of air on those cars. They don't have to be, 100%. They can be 90, 80% throttle, which uses less fuel than that if you're in the front. So, the drivers in the back, they're going to be able to save a little bit more fuel with their drafting and have less time on pit road when those green flag pit stops happen. So yeah, they're all kind of relaxed right now. There's still a few shifting going on. Actually, there's quite a bit of shifting still going on. Drivers trying to figure out if they want the inside or outside lanes, but they're doing a good job just kind of keeping it steady. We're kind of on cruise control at the moment. No big moves being made during this race.
As everyone stays in line, Jared Talmadge currently running that outside groove, leading the way with Drew Jua, Vincent Soar, James Scioli. And looking at the field and where we are right now, some of our biggest movers at the moment, Drew Jua up 20 spots from where he started. Shane Terrian running in 5th as he's working on the inside groove, leading with Joshua Kanata behind him, up 25 spots, up 23 positions. Is the 0-0 to that 9's outside of Brian Noel. Other drivers have been going up and down. Christopher Wade up 16 spots. Ryan Ferraro up 12. 16 positions for Brian McCann and 12 for Nick Crawford, as those are the drivers that are inside of the top 10 that all started outside of the top 10 entering into tonight's race.
Yeah, they've done a great job getting to the front and basically staying there. The front set of cars really hasn't changed much, so they've done a great job keeping those cars up front and not giving up as much track position as possible. And Shane Terrian trying to lead that inside line. They're doing a pretty good job just getting a little bit forward little by little each and every single lap. So they're doing a good job getting that inside line linked up and moving, but that outside line still proven to be the strongest way around the track at the current moment. But I mean, you got 3 of the 4 Lucky Duck drivers on that outside line. They were hoping to get Vincent Sora out of that line possibly and link up with each other, and then they can kind of control the pace of where they want to be and where they want to go with prepare for these pit stops coming up.
When do you make the stop is going to be the true question. You make it early and maybe give up track position just in case a caution happens in the middle of this run, or are you willing to stretch it out as long as you can? And I think that's always the fun decisions that you have to make on these races, that it comes down to a slight fuel mileage run of, you come into pit road, you just need to top off a little bit of fuel, or do you wait until the very end and risk it? You make a mistake later on, you maybe can't rebound. Well, if you make a mistake here, there's a chance of a caution coming out. You can recover any mistakes that can happen with a green flag pit stop.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about these racing. The majority of these drivers, they don't have a crew chief in their ear making those decisions for them. So not only do these drivers have to worry about what they're doing on the track around the other drivers, but they have to control how much fuel they're going to take, the tires that they're taking, when they want to pit, schedule, especially in a super speedway. You got to schedule your pit stop with your teammates, with a potential team that you're working with, other drivers around you. You got to make your way to the inside line so you can get into the pit without causing any issues. So it really, right now, your decision is based on your teammates and whatever other teams you're working with on when you want to pit. It's not just something you can make on a whim and pull in, because if you're pulling in with you or 2 or more or 2 drivers, you're not going to really be there at the end of the field unless a yellow happens. So it's a hard decision for teams to make altogether, but I feel these guys are going to run either about half of that tank empty and then start pitting, or run it to the very end and then pit and just top it off.
I mean, talking about not having a crew chief, also not having a spotter, there's only 2 drivers in the field that have a live person spotting for them, that being Brian McCann and Larry Yangling, both having a real-life person, giving them information. That can be so critical. Having a real-life person in your ear and informing you and being a spotter, they can tell you which lane is moving. If you need to check up a little bit, if there's a lot of drivers courting in front of you, well, if you're by yourself, we've got a perfect view from above. But if you're the drivers that are in line, sometimes you never know when the field's starting to check up in front of you. You're just trusting that you got a feel of, okay, we got to back off just slightly because everyone else is slowing down in front of you.
It's true. I mean, you cannot see past the car in front of you. In the turns, you can see a little bit. When you're around the straightaways, or even going up into the tri-oval, you see the rear panel of that car in front of you, and you can kind of see through their back window, but not very well. So having a person on the outside of the car telling you what lanes are clear, what lines moving, where people are checking up at, where people are running, it can be, invaluable information that other drivers don't have. And I've experienced that. I've had a spotter before during some of my Daytona 500 money races that I've been a part of. And having a spotter has been extremely helpful in those races. So being able to have that extra ear in, telling you where you should go and whatnot, it can be the changer on where you finish in this race.
As the field continues to race on, they can choose your lane you want to be in to continue to put lap after lap. Less than 30 laps to go. And I know for some of these drivers, fatigue is something we usually talk about. Running 70 laps is a lot. But also, Richard, I know for some of these drivers, this isn't just 70 laps that they've ran. For some, they've actually ran 270 laps at Daytona. On top of practice, could be even more than that, because earlier today, iRacing had a full-length Daytona 500 race that some of these drivers participated in just a couple hours before this race started. So I know fatigue is probably hitting a couple of these drivers more than others probably are.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, when you've already raced that full 200 lap race, and then you come here with the league on arguably a more difficult version of Daytona, because those bumps, I mean, it's jerking, it's moving your hands around more than the smooth version would be, because a lot of these drivers are running more than likely a higher force feedback on their steering wheel, so they can feel the bumps, feel the car, how it's turning, how it's reacting to pushes, the draft, the surface of the track itself. So the fatigue is definitely something these guys are feeling, and especially with being Daytona, like, you're pretty much full throttle the entire race, so their foot, I mean, I was experiencing it last night. My foot was going to sleep at times, and that can be a problem as well.
It certainly can. As you've seen some of the movement happening on screen, as Joshua Kanata making some moves to get around Christopher Wade. Also thought he had a chance to lead. And now it's the 27, and Jared Tom still leading the outside groove, with Drew Jua giving the push and enabling the 27 to lead even more laps for himself. As the 16 thought he had a chance to lead that lap and continue to be up front. Looking at these drivers, I'm looking at past trends. I've brought up the fact that in the past we've had anywhere from 2 to 4 to 7 cautions here at Daytona and all the different configurations they've ran. Also looking at the past 2 races here at Daytona, Magnet Season 9 and 10, have finished inside of the regulation of 100 laps. All others, the other 5 races that they've ran here at Daytona, all went to overtime. So the percentage of us going to overtime is a little bit higher than you usually would see. And Richard, with that knowledge, if some drivers look at the past, I mean, would you want to be more critical of the most recent races, or would you look at past of the history of the percentage of us going to overtime?
Oh, I'd always look at the history. Being Daytona, you were almost pretty much guaranteed to see overtime. That's just the nature of this track. So, I mean, that's a big decision maker also for these people that want to, or for these drivers when they want to go in for their pit stall. You want to take that extra margin of fuel, of extra 3 laps can help you make a decision on if overtime does happen. Some of these drivers probably are just taking enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. So if overtime happens, they're gonna have to come in and top off on fuel. But if those look ahead and
big wiggle for Ryan
that,
Ferraro. Sorry about that big wiggle for Ryan Ferraro. He tried to move up right in front of Nick Crawford, and small tap. The 10 luckily got the thing straightened out, but for a moment there, got concerned for the field. But yeah, I agree with your sentiment of you might want to save or get a little bit of extra fuel to make sure you're good. For at least 1 attempt, maybe 2, if you're going to make a stop.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're at least set for 1 attempt. I mean, the only downside about that is if you do make it 2 attempts, then you're going to be the one pitting, and those people that pit during the original is going to be up front. So it's definitely a game, a little bit of a gamble game also when it comes to Daytona, because that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles with the way this race flows.
It certainly does. And looking at the pace for the field, get ready. We might have our first opportunity to see what this field can react with lap traffic. I think we're about 10 laps away, it might be even less than that, from seeing lap traffic in front of the field as Cedric Hunter and Douglas Newbigin, has been on their own since we went green just about 20 laps ago. Those drivers are slowly being caught and are about 10 seconds off of our leaders in the rest of this field that are going side by side. And if they get caught in the next 10 laps, that could be around the window of when drivers are thinking about making pit stops potentially. And with pit stops being made, alliances, friends, you're looking for other drivers to come to pit road. I know in real life NASCAR, you're always looking for manufacturers and teammates when you come to pit road. iRacing's a little different. I think it's more so of pick your friends and allies and also teammates to work with when you're going to make the pit stops. And I'm curious for the field, is the reason why we're seeing a lot more jostling around is to find your allies and friends, or is it track position you're looking for at this moment?
Right now you're just trying to, if you're looking at aiming to get pit stops probably within the next 5 laps. I say 5 laps is about the time you want to start planning your pit stop. That's when you want to start making your way to the inside line, getting with your teammates, making sure everyone's under the same idea of when you're pitting, because if you get separated, even coming into the pits can be chaotic. You have, 5 to 10, 12 cars all trying to go from 180 plus miles per hour down to 60 in a very short amount of time. So right now it looks like a lot of drivers are kind of positioning themselves, getting with the drivers they want to come down pit lane with, as you see a lot of cars shifting to that inside line.
Or is it save fuel? It was a whole collective that just backed off their pace. I don't know if it was the side drafting with drivers being passed, if it's drivers just trying to slow down on their runs. Well, you're seeing the collective group of about 7. They're saying, all right, I'm going to go as fast as I can. And the rest of the field willing to back off and slow down and get in line. And we just fell off over almost a full second to what we were just seeing on pace for the past 20 laps. Now down, instead of a 47-second lap time, it's now down to a 48 for everyone 8th on back. We'll see what this lap looks like, but that was a shocker to see how quickly everyone just dropped back on their pace.
Yeah, I did notice that back group there has dropped like a rock with their pace. And I'm not sure if this is a fuel-saving decision to drop like this they have, or if that was just shuffling going on that kind of messed up people's momentum. But that is massive. They're still back up into the 47s again, so it could have just been people shuffling around preparing for these pit stops. But that was very wild to see over a 2-lap span.
And if you've been reading the chat, you might have noticed Cody Reed has been spamming in there. Because of the fact of Watkins not showing up, Cody believes he is good on points. I believe we're looking at the math. He should be good on points as well to make it in. With wherever Garcia finishes, Cody Reed should be making the playoffs. Again, we'll wait for 100% confirmation at the end of the race. But unofficially, Cody Reed, he's feeling good on points. And that means Garcia can run as aggressively as he wants to see that 50 machine currently in 17th position. But that doesn't mean Garcia's race is over. That just means his focus is now on the win, if he's even going to have a chance for the playoffs, which ultimately always was his goal. But now he doesn't have that extra pressure of, I might knock out Cody Reed from the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't even think that was in his mindset in the first place. His mindset, I guarantee you, was I need to win this race to get into the playoffs. Not very often you'll find another driver just aiming to take out another driver from a playoff chance, but who knows, it could have been his goal the whole time. But right now he can just focus on looking towards that win and that checkered flag flying over his car first. But being that far back, he's got to make some really aggressive moves to get forward, but he's falling back. It looks like he's about to kind of fall out of the draft of Nick Crawford right now as well.
Looking at some of the drivers, the way that they're running currently, we're seeing our top 7 kind of just running in their own world, being led by Jared Talmadge with Kanata, Terrian, Wade, Drew Jua, Vincent Sora, and James Scioli. They're closing up on lap traffic where there's communication over the driver's radio. Drivers trying to get information on where they want lap cars to be. It sounds like the lap cars are going to stay high, and that's where Cedric Hunter and Douglas Newbigin will run, as the lead pack will stay low through the tri-oval, trying to get by this lap traffic and hoping that they don't get side drafted too hard and take it back. Those lap cars dropping immediately down, showing side drafting, trying to slow down the pace so that when they get past, they can try to latch onto the draft or just slow the group down completely. Douglas Newbegin able to get in line. Cedric Hunter still on the outside, and I mean, just like that, everyone gets in line, but that was an aggressive slowdown run that this lead group had.
And, that's also a race between Cedric Hunter and Douglas Lubing, because if a caution were to come out, one of those drivers gets the lucky dog. So, I mean, Douglas Lubing, especially searching for that win to be able to make the playoffs, he has to race aggressive and stay in front of Cedric Hunter if he wants to have that lucky dog in case a caution comes out. So that's a race within itself as well, but they are lapped cars within this front leading group. So they've got to be a little careful there and be a little respectful for that situation. But they were able to get that group kind of separated a little bit and get in line. Now they're able to stick with the group.
I'm curious if we can bring up the weather once again. I know we harped on it before of how hot this track is. Again, air temperature has gone up 1 degree from where we looked at it during qualifying. It's now up to 87 degrees Fahrenheit is the air. Track temperature 131. The wind is going south at 6 miles per hour. But Richard, that temperature with green flag pit stops now hitting, what are the tires going to look like? What are the brakes going to look like? Because with this hot, slick track, I don't know if these drivers are set up for these green flag pit stops. Hopefully they're ready, because 3 drivers enter pit road. It's Kanata, Talmadge, Tarian, all coming in as a trio.
Oh, that is a rough situation there. Rough decision to make, as it's only 3 cars. They're not going to have a ton of speed compared to more than that, but hopefully they can link up. But the biggest issue they might have is sliding through their box with these slick tires. But when it comes to the pit stop decision, there's no way taking tires is even in their mind, because it is basically going to be a splash and go to top these cars off. And if you're taking tires, that's just more time on pit road that you cannot afford to have.
That's going to be teammates from Backmarker Racing of that trio Green Fest. Drivers up front, get rolling. It's going to be seeing the lap cars leading the charge and be back on the lead lap of Cedric Hunter and Douglas Newbegin. As Christopher Wade goes high, the rest of the field tries to get by the 53 machine. As Vincent Sora, Drew Jua, the question now looms on them. Do you pit with 10 to go, or did you feel like by backing off over a second and a half, did you save enough fuel to take it to the end?
I would be shocked if these drivers were able to save enough fuel, because that's still a lot of fuel they needed to save, even for those that pit 1 lap after during that last yellow. I just don't see them being able to save enough fuel. We've still got 14 laps to go in this race. I mean, that is over 30 miles left of racing. And these cars, they go through gas quite a bit. So I would be impressed if they're able to save enough fuel to go the rest of this race.
I mean, I call them the underdogs, the dark horse, you could say. Andrew Medlin, Chris Stitz, Ken Campbell. That is Storm Motorsports. Their other teammate, Christopher Wade, wasn't able to get in line with them. But they currently are the drivers that are leading those that topped off a lap after the other, plus the other half that pitted the lap before under our last caution. And if they're going to save fuel, they're the ones to do it. They've been sitting in the prime opportunity of just lingering in the middle of the pack where you're able to save the most fuel. We'll see how long they can push it out for. Again, they need to save about 4 to 5 laps. And each lap here at Daytona is 2.5 miles. I mean, you're asking to save, 6 miles of fuel, if not more, that you're hoping to save? That's a lot of fuel you got to save under currently these 30 laps you've been green for.
Yeah, and being that they're all on the inside, I mean, this could be part of the fuel saving strategy. You're on the shortest way around the track, so you're not utilizing as much fuel. But I mean, their lap times, they did drop to 48.4s now, so they have significantly reduced their speed by almost a second. So I mean, these drivers, we might be running into a situation of we might have drivers run out of fuel if they don't decide to pit. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm just blown away that these drivers have decided to try to push this bit of fuel and make it the rest of the way. But I mean, I don't see the finishing order changing if that's the case, though.
But that's why you have the lap cards where they're at. Cedric Hunter, Drew Jua, Douglas Newbegin and Cedric Hunter. They're both drivers that are trying to stay on the lead lap. That's their goal. But also for them, they're helping out Drew Jua, who would have been the leader, would have been burning off the most fuel. He's third in line. He's able to back off, save some fuel there. Vincent Sora is able to save fuel where he's at. That last lap, a 49.5 for Drew Jua, and everyone else a low 49-second lap time. If you can't save the fuel, though, you're losing so much ground that for Joshua Kanata, Shane Terrian, as well as Jared Talmadge, they're in the catbird seat because they have already would have surpassed you if this group goes into pit road now.
And the thing is, they're only running 2 seconds faster than the group. They still have 26 seconds to make up. So if they make, I mean, it's very slimly possible that they can make this up. But I think some drivers are realizing we can't make it on fuel. They're now going to the outside and surging up front. They're probably going to try to force this and make people try and pit because this, they're trying to make the fuel last. And I just still don't see that going to happen.
But if you're gonna save fuel, why not get track position? And that's exactly what Brian P. Johnson did. He ran right up to where he sees the 13, get in line, maybe we'll pull away, but maybe we'll save a little bit of fuel on the charge as well, as the 28 is now your leader. The rest of the field, they stay in line. But if you're some of those drivers like Brian P. Johnson and a couple of others, you topped off on fuel, you're in a better fuel situation than Drew Jua and as well Vincent Soar and a few others. You've been in the middle of the pack, you've been saving the most fuel, you might have the fuel to make it, so that's why they're taking off now.
Yeah, and the big thing is, I think that the pace has dropped significantly now that Jarrett Talmadge leading that group of 3 of him, Joshua Kanata, and Shane Terrian. They've got enough speed. It is very possible for them to catch up before the end of this race. And if that's the case, I mean, all these drivers trying to save fuel, I mean, it's pretty much going to allow Jarrett Talmadge to run away and take this win because they just have to reduce their pace so much to save fuel. There's a 3-second difference from those drivers and that of Jarrett Talmadge.
It's 2.5 to 3-second difference each lap right now compared to the drivers that run in 7th place on back. They are running low 49 seconds. It was 50 seconds the lap before. And Brian P. Johnson and co. that are leading this race, that's Johnson and also Justin Malarkey with Cedric Hunter, the driver that's trying to lead that group. They just put down a 48.2-second lap time. If you fall back to Talmadge, Kanata, and Shane Terrian, they did a 47.6. They're running a little bit over a half second faster. The only problem, they are 25 seconds behind our current leaders. They got a lot of work to catch up. Now, if it's based off of raw speed, they're not going to catch them, but they're banking on the rest of the field. Cannot make it on fuel. That's what they're hoping for if you're Talmadge, Kanata, and Terrian.
Yeah, they're definitely banking on that fuel running out of those drivers, and the problem is those drivers who have not pit yet, which is basically the entire field, they can't pit now because that will literally gift the win to Jarrett Talmadge and that team of Kanata and Terrian as well. So they've kind of made their bed. They're banking on trying to make it the rest of the way on fuel, and it'll be impressive to see how many drivers can make it on gas at this point, but Jarrett Talmadge, they are hoping that these drivers start running out of fuel within the next 2 to 3 laps because this is the point that these drivers might have been running out of fuel with 7 laps to go. 4 to 6 laps is what they were missing to make it to the end. And let's see what drivers were able to save enough for who is going to run out at the last minute.
And people are realizing Storm Motorsports is trying to catch up to that lead group. They're trying to make sure that we don't see Johnson and Malarkey and others just run away with this race. So they've got to take off and go. And Drew Jua attempted to stay in the draft, but he had to back off his pace so much. He's now falling back to this cluster that are in a dogfight. So some that are saving fuel, others that are trying to catch up with pace, and it is hurting everyone because they're side drafting. This is a nightmare for everyone that's 9th on back. You just can't take off and go. You're stuck, and you're watching Johnson, Malarkey, Medlin, Stitz, Campbell, GT Razzari just run away with this race. But if that's the key, is do they have enough fuel for those top 6?
And they're too wide, and their pace is back up to the 47-second laps. So these drivers, they are trying to push. They don't want to give this win to Jarrett Talmadge and his crew. But it's just, I don't see them making it on gas, but they see something that we don't. Apparently, they can look at how much gas they've got left and how many laps that fuel is going to make it. So these drivers are seeing something that we don't. It's going to be impressive impressive to watch what these drivers can do as we come to 4 laps to go. We're on the backstretch right now, but I mean, these drivers are doing a good job saving gas if they're able to make it. This is just an impressive thing to watch.
But I'm looking at the pace. Those drivers for Kevin Rogers and others, they are in line and they are starting to catch up to Johnson. They are not just going to let those top 6 run away with this race. They have to start rolling now. But for Johnson, Malarkey, they were driving away with Cedric Hunter and they were hoping the rest of the field just would continue to fight. But Cedric Hunter could not stay as the leader, had to go into pit road. Now it's Johnson that leads the way. He's burning off the most fuel out of everyone. He can't back off on his pace, and with 4 laps to go, it's now going to be about 3.5 laps. You're trusting you have the fuel, and you're banking that you can make it to the end. If you're Talmadge, Kanata, and Terrian, you need everyone to run out. But with the pace and how much it fell off, I think everyone's good. It is go full bore and trust you've got the fuel.
Yeah, that right now, that's all you have to do is trust in the machine that's underneath you, that you are in control of, and hope that gas, banks off and you guys can keep enough fuel. But, they're just picking up the speed still. Their pace is back up to the race pace they had before as we cross the line with 3 laps to go, and Lucky Ducks on the outside with Drew Drua being pushed by Zachary Hall. Gavin jumps up to that outside line to get a huge shove. He's going to make a surge on the outside line as well.
Well, thanks for telling us it's time to go. But Gavin Rogers, the most Waynish driver of the season, he wants another one with 3 laps to go. Can win number 4 be in hands of Rogers as he pulls away? Drew Jua doesn't want to be patient. He snaps down to the inside and wants to be the leader of that inside group. But the problem, Johnson's not there. The momentum falls off. It's Hall, it's Rogers, and Norris on the outside, keeping the lead as we're coming up to 2 to go.
2 to go out of 4. And it looks like Drew is pulling up. He might be out of fuel. Down the pit lane he goes. That'll give Gavin Rogers, Zach Hall, and Christopher Norris a huge lead. But Gavin Rogers now diving to the inside lane.
Zach Hall didn't want to follow the 75. He goes to the outside. It's Hall, it's Norris, it's JT Rizzari now the leaders on the outside groove. Norris is going to be staying in line with Hall. The question is, can we stay green? We won't. They spin down to the inside. Caution is out. And Richard, we're going to overtime.
Overtime indeed. And that last pull off for Drew Jua is going to pay off. That will gift him a top 4 for the restart if he's able to get out in front of Jared Talmadge and them, which I don't think so. But Drew Jua gambling, not really gambling, he's kind of forced to go down and take gas, but a huge wreck in the back there is causing us to go to overtime, and all these drivers, fuel doesn't matter now.
It doesn't, as we're going to see Jared Hughes on the outside, the driver that kind of gets bounced around, and it's just people being pinched and squeezed, and you're late in the race. There's not a lot of give up, and it looks like Sinchek, a little bit of a tap, same from the up front from Gavin Rogers. It just was one of those racing deals where everyone squeezed up. There just wasn't enough room, and the 68 gets pinched in the middle, and Sinchek finishes the job as the 26 68 goes around. Andrew Medlin, I think he's been involved in every incident so far here tonight. There's the Storm Motorsports drivers that thought they were clear from drama, and instead they were not. As the rest of the field gets stacked up, we are officially in overtime. And Richard, this is the next drama part. You are good on fuel to make it to the end, but with overtime, who's got the fuel to stretch it? Because we are officially in this stint into the no man's zone for some of these drivers on their fuel stint.
I don't think any of these drivers are going to make it into the overtime laps now. I think they're going to have to come down pit road. I think they're going to have to top off, but here they come. The lead drivers coming into pit. They're going to top off on fuel. But yeah, that was just a miscommunication by teammates of Gavin Rogers and Jared Hughes there. Gavin, just a little hesitation going to the outside, thought he had the room, but Jared was right there and just couldn't slow down enough in time and got kind of pushed from behind. But yeah, this is going to be it. This is where everyone's fueling up, taking up fuel just in case more overtimes happen. But I mean, you have 4 drivers now going to be up front, if not a little more, that were gifted this lead of the race because of their decisions to pit.
From the back, put them to the front. We will be seeing Joshua Kanata, Shane Terrian up to that top spot, as well as Jared Talmadge, as they will enjoy the top 3 positions as they went into pit road and got service done, topping off on fuel. They were banking on the rest of the field not being able to make it on fuel, but they'll take, I think, a overtime attempt. And also going to be a driver to watch out for are going to be Drew Jua, who, again, pulled off into the pits and gave him a chance as we are under our 5th caution of the day. Here's your race report for tonight's race so far. 5 cautions. We've had 24 lead changes, and we've raced so far tonight 91 of our 101 laps under green flag conditions. Impressive numbers when you look around at it. But we are in overtime for the 6th time out of 8 races here at Daytona for the WSSR. You looked at the trends, you knew it most likely was going to happen.
Yeah, more likely it was going to happen. I even called saying that we were going to see overtime, and sure enough, we did. So, man, the top 4 there, though, they looking like huge heroes with that pit stop they decided to do. But now the question is, if we have another overtime, did they take enough fuel to go more overtimes than just this first one? So we'll have to see. Hopefully these drivers can get around and take that white flag lap. Then the yellows won't even matter if they wreck behind them. And these drivers could be in clear sailing, but we'll see what drivers are going to make the aggressive move, because this is where I think we're going to see the most aggression we've seen all race. We'll see more than just 1 or 2 rows 3 wide. We might see the entire field going 3 wide, trying to get those final positions, because the playoffs are on the line. This is it. Just a few laps left of the regular season here for the WSSR Season 10.
I mean, Richard, it's on the line for sure. And if you entered into tonight and you look at the point standings, we got a lot of drivers that were outside looking in with a chance to win and get into the playoffs. Jared Talmadge, he was the first driver outside of the cut line entering tonight. Christopher Norris, also one of those drivers outside looking in. He'll start in 4th position on this restart for himself. You also look at the likes of some drivers outside looking in. Back in 13th, we find Justin Malarkey. Chris Stitz is that bubble driver, but he's so far back and didn't have a great stage run. I mean, if you're the 17, you might get knocked into the playoffs just based off of points alone, and it might even come down to someone winning and they're in.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, you just got to keep your head in the game still, because the game is not over. But you've got to have friends wherever you are to get forward. Also, you can't make the moves by yourself. You might be able to get 1 or 2 positions by yourself, but when you need points and points are on the line, you need to find a friend that's willing to help you, push you through this field, and get to the position you need so you can be in that playoff picture.
Lights are off. We are going this time. This is our first attempt at overtime of 3 if needed. If you've never seen overtime before on iRacing, it's quite simple. It's going to be a 2-lap shootout. Green, white, checkered. Under this first lap when we go green, if we have a caution that's on track and brings out a yellow flag, we will reset and go to attempt number 2. But if we take the white flag and it is waving and the leaders cross the line, the next lap will be the checkered. No yellow will be thrown on that last lap. But it's all about taking the white flag if we can get there in time. The field is set. It's 2 by 2. It's the last race of the regular season. Who's making it into the playoffs and already taking off on the outside is going to be Jared Talmadge. And with a huge run, not a lot of friends directly on that back bumper. It's the inside row, but they get in line for the teammates, a back marker. It's going to be Talmadge, Kanata, Terrian, rest of the field. Here we go, Richard. They're going to be having a huge run on our top 6.
And a huge run indeed for these teammates. They are going to stick together. That's what you need as teammates at this point. But Drew Jua on the outside is trying to be the Widowmaker and making this group mixed up. And they are 3 wide all the way back in the field. Moves are being made. Everyone trying to get further up in the field as Larry Yingling takes it 3 wide to make a pass on the inside or the middle.
A shocker, Yingling actually not getting help from Ryan Kelly, his teammate. Instead, everyone gets in line, get prepared. It's looking good, and we will stay good. White flag in hand. This race is official. It's about getting to the line, and who's going to take the win? Will Jared Talmadge make the playoffs as they're wrecking behind? Richard, it's chaos. Everyone's wrecking, but up front, it's our top 6 trying to pull away.
Yeah, and it almost looks like Jared Talmadge couldn't move away with this, but Drew in that 3 group right there might have a huge run. As you got right around Justin Malarkey. He's going to look outside. Malarkey, he's going to be a chance also, but no help. And Drew is going to jump to the outside, also try to push Justin Malarkey.
Malarkey, could he be the stealer? He entered tonight 25th, the last driver that could get into the playoffs, but he's being side drafted. He's being held back. Will the run collect? It won't. Jared Talmadge, when and you're in, playoff bound is the 27.
Jared Talmadge and team able to make the right call and pit under green flag. What we thought could have been detrimental to their run ended up being the heroic move they needed and pushing Jared Talmadge to the win and into playoff contention.
I mean, could have been maybe the most Cinderella story of Justin Malarkey making it into the playoffs, but the side draft was too strong and it held back. As here's the chaos of drivers as they were trying to make it through the madness around the wreck going into turn 1 that threw away a lot of drivers' chances to go racing to make it into the playoffs. But as all this chaos was happening, Justin Malarkey thought he had a run. I mean, Richard, I think you might have made the pass a little bit too soon. Needed a little bit more help if you were the 73 to go for the win. But instead, it's the teammates from back marker racing from the back to the front and to victory lane. Jared Talmadge, he's going to enjoy this one because he's got a berth to the playoffs for the 27.
Burn it down on the front stretch. He's going to do it. Fantastic teamwork from that team, showing that you need friends at Daytona as he gets a little hit from John Forbes there on the front stretch. I'm not sure what that was about.
That's just a friendly hit. Those guys are excited.
Oh man, a great finish to a wonderful race to be watching.
It absolutely was, and it's not over just yet. Jarrett looks excited. I know Kanata's excited as well. Same for Malarkey, and we will hear that excitement when we come back. It's the post-race show. We'll talk to our top 3, get their thoughts on the evening, and man, it's going to be a fun one to listen to. We'll see you right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show for the WSSR Cup Series. Race 12 is in the books, In Daytona, it came down to who could cross the line. Would it be the Cinderella story of Malarkey, or could it be someone else coming to the line for victory? Instead, it goes to a driver outside looking in, entering this evening. That was Jarrett Talmadge. Could have been knocked out because of Cody Reed's win at the start of the season. Well, why not win and you lock yourself into the chance to run for a championship? We've got the 27 with us in victory lane. Jarrett, it's Sam and Richard up in the booth. Congratulations, you are a WSSR victor, and you are season 10 playoff bound. How are you feeling after this one?
Oh my god, I cannot. I literally have no words. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that was a fantastic teamwork from you and the team there, Jared. And, we were wondering a little bit when you guys pit if the rest of the field would be able to make it on gas, and they picked up their pace near the end. Were you guys getting a little worried that they were going to be able to make it the rest of the way?
Yeah, we were slightly worried there with about 5 to go that majority of them would be able to make it because we know a lot of them topped off. So we were just kind of banking on them wrecking because we knew if they wrecked, they'd have to pit. And it worked out perfect.
I mean, it certainly did work out perfect. I mean, Jarrett, before coming to the end of that run, points were looking a little bit more swayed. It was going to be complicated if we had stayed green on how many drivers were going to make it to the end. Were you concerned about points at any during this race, or was it strictly I need to win to make sure I'm in the playoffs?
I mean, to be honest, I really did just come into the race not really worried about whether I made the playoffs or not because it wasn't going to like break me if I didn't or did. I haven't had the best season. I've wrecked myself in a lot of races and stuff, so I wasn't really worried about it. And if I made it, it was just like it was a cherry on top. But towards the end there, I was kind of peeking at where some of the people were running, and I saw Chris was running up there, and I was like, it's probably over unless we get a yellow.
Well, yellow came out, and you, sir, are in victory lane and are a WSSR Cup Series winner. Jared, congratulations. Enjoy this one. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
I mean, I got to give the biggest shout out to Josh and Shane. I literally would not have won it without them. Hell of a teamwork from them, and really appreciate it. Got to give a shout out to Thomas. He wasn't here to spot for me tonight, but he has been doing it the past couple of weeks. Shout out to you guys for on the broadcast, everyone who runs the league, and yeah.
Well, taking the final spot of the playoffs, give it to the 27. Jared Talmadge is playoff bound for season 10. Congratulations on this win. Enjoy it, and good luck in the first race of the playoffs next week at the Glen.
Thank you.
As we move from victory lane, we go down to second place. Talk to his teammate of Jared Talmadge. It's the 16 of Joshua Kanata, who for most of the race was trying to be up front, led a couple of laps, and was putting a lot of pressure for the drivers up front. But at the end, he pushed his teammate to the line and helped him get into the playoffs. Josh, it's Sam and Richard up in the booth. I mean, how are you feeling coming off of helping your teammate win? And how are you feeling after surviving a chaotic race?
Oh, it's great to see him get into the playoffs. I mean, coming to the end, we knew it was going to be either me or him, and we figured he's higher in the points. He probably deserves it more than I do. So we were definitely happy just to get through that. We're happy that Shane was able to get through that big wreck behind us. I don't really know what happened. I just saw a bunch of door numbers in my mirror, but I'm glad it worked out. We were stoked when that last caution happened. Obviously, we weren't really too sure if that was going to pan out or not, but we had to try it, and well, at least the gamble worked this time.
Gamble worked definitely for you guys, Joshua, and it was definitely strange seeing you three the only ones pitting under green. And like you said, it was either you or Talmadge making it in. I mean, do you think that Jarrett could have made it in on points even if he didn't win, if you would have snuck in and got that?
I think it would have been really close, like maybe within a couple of points, but we were trying to figure that out beforehand. Maybe with like 5 to go, but we were just figuring it was too close to call. And, I mean, at the same time, when you look at kind of how the end of that race played out, I'm not sure I even could have jumped him anyway without both of us losing. So it definitely worked out, but I was surprised more people didn't pit during that last run, because I had a feeling that a lot of people were probably going to run out, maybe coming to the white or maybe going through 3 and 4 on the last lap if it went green. I was very curious to see how that was going to play out, but like I said, I'm just happy for Jarrett, and I mean, I'm looking at the points now. I don't think he would have gotten anyway. So it was within just a couple of points. So I'm happy to help a teammate, and hopefully he can make it count in the playoffs.
We're hoping for that as well. Yeah, the points just got updated. Jared Talmadge officially points-wise would have been 15th, and so if you would have won, Josh, it would have bounced him out of the playoffs. And a huge season for yourself. I mean, at moments, you showed some great pace. I know not making the playoffs got to be slightly frustrating, but how are you feeling for your season so far, and what's your motivation and goal heading into the playoffs?
There's definitely been a lot of highs and lows this year. I think that's pretty safe to say. Had a lot of races that I think I could have done a lot better. A lot of incidents that were more self harm than anything. I think just going into the playoffs, keep some momentum going. Maybe, just try to keep fighting for wins. Obviously, not, mess up any of these guys that are fighting for the trophy, but just try to learn some more stuff for next season, and just try to help my team however I can, and hopefully one of us can walk away with this thing.
Well, it was an awesome run to watch there late. Congratulations, Josh, on a second place finish. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
Yeah, of course. First off, thanks for you guys for putting on such a great show. I know this was definitely an entertaining one. Definitely a lot to talk about. Everybody who's watching, we can't do this without you guys and all your support. And I know I got some friends that are watching too. Thanks for everybody, and thanks for the guys who put on this great league. And hopefully we'll be back in here sooner rather than later.
Well, that will be your second place finisher here tonight, finishing the 1-2 finish from the Backmarker Racing crew of Joshua Kanata. Congratulations on second, Josh, and good luck. Hopefully the momentum carries on into the rest of the season.
Thank you, guys.
As we move from second place, we go down to third, talk to our last driver in the interviews, and from the booth to the car to almost to the playoffs, coming up third, just missing out on the win that could have put him in. We've got Justin Malarkey with us, and Justin, it's Sam and Richard up in the booth. What a run there late. I mean, super speedway racing, it seems like you're always there with a chance, but coming up just a little bit off. How are you feeling, though, after this fabulous performance and coming away third?
Sam, Richard, it's great to hear your voice. I was hoping to hear it at one point throughout this season and finally get to do it here right before the playoffs. Almost got it. That would have been really neat to get in there and race with those guys. That restart, it just, like, everything worked perfectly. Got through the gears really, really good. Carried all the momentum and had all that speed on the outside line. And when we got to turn 3, I shot down to the bottom, used that momentum down the hill, and tried to just pray I could latch onto those two in front of me. And then it all worked out from there. And then we come out down the back straightaway, and I wasn't sure exactly who everyone was on a team with. And I'm like thinking, all right, maybe the fourth place car is going to go with me. We could try and be 1-2. And then I found out later he was going to be committed to that inside. So Drew really tried to help me, and I just needed to probably back up a little bit to his bumper. But he did have a little bit of damage there from that accident. So it all worked out, though. It's fun to get a top 3. The race was really fun. I mean, being on Daytona 2008 with the bumpy surface in these cars, they're constantly bottoming out. So it just puts on a great show.
Yeah, it's great to see you up here in the booth now, Justin, as well. All season waiting for it. And, it was almost a Cinderella story, almost able to sneak away with that win and get into the playoffs for yourself. But when it comes to the tires here at Daytona, we never really got around to asking anybody, like, was it that much of a difference getting new tires versus old? And what was the wear like?
The most I really saw was on the left side, actually more than the right side. It never really got below like 93% even on the longest run. But I think track position still mattered, but it's nice just to have that little bit of grip coming, especially out of turns 3 and 4. You'll see some guys slide up the track later in the runs. If it came down to it, I didn't take tires with 2 to go there. When we topped off, I was like, no one's going to take them, and we were all kind of slipping and sliding. But it made it fun on a restart, because I'm not sure if people got a little bit of light wheel spin, but it was just weird how that restart, it didn't seem like everyone went perfectly. People weren't lashed on, so I don't know if people did get a little bit of spin just ever so slightly.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a lot of drivers were trying to find teammates as quickly as they could, and it just hurt on that restart. But Justin, I mean,
See, it's good not to have teammates there.
Yeah, sometimes it is good. But Justin, with the rest of the season, I know you missed out on the playoffs, but we still have a lot of races left. What is your goal for yourself for the rest of the season moving on?
Well, my goal is to definitely keep coming out here, because these drivers, I mean, when I look at their ratings, I'm like, wow, these guys are up in like the 7,000, 8,000s, and you learn so much from them. I mean, qualifying is really important. I'm trying to work on the qualifying. Some of the tracks I'm not too familiar with, like last week, Milwaukee, but felt like I was at least hanging there with them. Just trying to really learn and see what these guys are doing different. I started experimenting with different wheel settings and trying to get the car to turn a little quicker. I usually use that slower steering and starting to get down with that faster steering box, and it seems to maybe be working a little bit better for me. So just get out there, keep learning with these guys because they really are some of the best out here.
Well, it was a blast to watch. I know Cody Reed was rooting on, hoping that you'd get into victory lane. It was a fun run to watch there late. And Justin, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
Well, as always, thank you to you guys. Freaky Fast, the best broadcasting company. Loved broadcasting with you guys, and now I get to race and be broadcasted by you guys. Even more enjoyable for everyone. And obviously, Robert up there always having a great job at the Freaky Fast cameras and everything. And then shout out to this league because it's just an awesome run league. We get a lot of green flag racing with 30, 35 guys each week. So that's always exciting. And I have to definitely give the shout out to my parents, my brother, my sister, everyone watching. They haven't got a chance to hear a shout out in a long time. So I'm sure they're having a little fun.
Well, that'll be your third place finisher here tonight in the 73 of Justin Malarkey. Justin, congratulations on this finish and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks.
As we move on from our going to be interviews, we take a look at our unofficial results for the evening. It was a wild one. We got that late race wreck when we took the white flag into turn one that shuffled everyone from about sixth on back on where they were going to finish. But up front, it was against teammates, against rivals, against those that were hoping for a miracle. And ultimately, it was the backmarker racing teammates that got in line and helped Jared Talmadge get the win that punched his ticket into the playoffs. And what a run for himself. And then it will be Joshua Kanata second, with Justin Malarkey third. Drew Jewett tried his best to help that 73. Ultimately will come away fourth. Shane Tarian, also with the big side drafts, will come away fifth. Zach Hall, he was trying to stay attached to that group. He was the first survivor of the big wreck. He'll come away sixth. Seventh is Brian B. Johnson. Eighth is Chris Stitz. And for Stitz, tried everything he could. Points-wise, was close, but he will be the first. He will be the driver knocked out with Cody Reed's win all the way back at the start of the season at Atlanta. That win will count. Cody Reed's in the playoffs, and it is Stitz knocked out, even with 8th place here this evening. GT Rosario, he'll come away 9th and 10th place being Christopher Wade, but we look at the rest of the results, and it ultimately was the drivers that were able to drive out of the wreck after the big one happened there on the last lap.
And it really was. I mean, it's when it comes to Daytona or any kind of super speed or racing, it's really hard to say I'm shocked to see this driver this far back or this driver this far up, because anything can happen. But I will say, I think the one driver that I'm really shocked of such a low performance was Douglas Newbigging. He had two minor mistakes. One wasn't so big. It was with Cedric Hunter there on the tri-oval. Just, not quite square on the rear bumper when they were going through, and just bumped at the wrong time. But in the unfortunate situation where him and Nick Crawford tried to occupy the same space at the exact same time, which ended up being much bigger of a mistake for Newbigging. But he definitely had the pace, he definitely had the speed and the teammates to work with to be able to get up in the front. And he just, unfortunate situation he got himself involved in, and then just losing the draft with him and Cedric Hunter near the end there.
Your biggest mover of the night will be Shane Tarian, up 25 spots as he qualified 30th and came away 5th here tonight. But what a fabulous run. It was a blast to call, and to see all these drivers putting their best foot forward to race for a chance for a championship. Daytona's in the books. It was a fun one to watch, but we've got playoffs right around the corner, as well as almost some truck racing right around the corner. We are 2 weeks away, about a week and a half actually, from racing action for the ISRC Truck Series. February 24th will be the start of a brand new season, Season 8 for the Truck Series. A little bit of a shorter season as they're starting later in the year. And for the WSSR, we'll be back next week. Start of the playoffs. And Richard, what a track to start the playoffs off we are heading to Watkins Glen to start the first round, the round of 16. And then we also finish off the round at Texas the week after. It's going to be a very tough first round, I think, for some of these drivers that don't feel comfortable at a road course.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very tough first round to start off the playoffs. But, you know, it's really interesting to see this playoff schedule and not see a super speedway that you would see in a lot of other schedules. But, I mean, the only one you can consider is really Watkins Glen is considered the super speedway of road courses. So, yes, technicality, we do have one, but Watkins Glen, a fantastic race to watch. It is going to be one wild race, especially with the road course king of Gavin Rogers. He's might have, you know, a great start to his playoff run there at Watkins Glen, but we'll see if, you know, Vincent Sora and those can get some practice in and figure out what Gavin has figured out and maybe give him a run for his money in that first round.
Yeah, Gavin Rogers trying to go for the road course sweep and win all the road courses this season. We'll see if that happens. Again, that's next week at Watkins Glen. But for tonight, we want to say thank you so much to everyone that joined with us. If you were typing in the chat, if you were just watching and observing, if you watch this after the race is over, we appreciate your time in watching the broadcast and supporting the drivers out on track. If you really enjoyed the broadcast, we'd love it if you'd hit the like button. And if you want to watch some of our future broadcasts, remember to subscribe and hit the bell notification button to be notified when we go live and upload any of our other extra content. If you want to check out some of our best finishes of 2024, you can go check out that video on our YouTube page, or if you'd like, just rewatch this finish because this was a wild one, seeing Jarrett Talmadge take the win. Before our Wednesday night coverage of the WSSR Cup Series, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Richard Wolsifer, and for Robert Moyer Jr. and everyone else a part of Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us. It was a pleasure to give you the call, and we will wait and see how these drivers react next week. Playoffs. Who's going to be able to make that big, shocking move to set up to make it to the next round? You'll have to find out as we head to Watkins Glen next week for our next Freaky Fast broadcast.